Good evening, everyone. This is take 2 of the Livid Comics Lair podcast number 10. We had some technical issues there earlier, so hopefully this takes care of that. But we have a special guest for you tonight. He's going to be on here shortly. He is a podcaster. He runs the Popanimecomics Pop Culture podcast, as well as a comic book investing podcast as well. So a lot of good information here for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and roll the intro here. Hopefully our technical issues are solved. We appreciate your patience tonight. So please, without further ado, welcome Mr. Andrew Mecha Davis. Again. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, here we go.
Let's see.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds better. That was weird. So I did a part. I said it was take 2. So there you go. So right. What's up, everybody?
It's also weird. It's really
that
weird
was the weirdest shit ever. I thought I was in some type of weird world or something. I don't know. Losing my mind.
Right? Yeah, that was different.
I'm blaming Mia for my crappy internet connection up on the beach here. But
well, dude, you're in Maine, so everything's crappy. Except
right.
the beach.
I don't think
it's like all those people, they say they want to go to Mars, right? And I'm like, dude, just drive up to northern Maine at 3:15 a.m. and get out of the car, and you're in Mars. Like, it's the same deal. You're there. Yep. This is great. I see seeing you, seeing me behind your screen there.
Yeah, I love those kind of things, that means infinity.
Right? Yep. So we're welcoming Andrew Davis on the show tonight. I'm gonna catch you mid-gulp. What's going on, Andrew, buddy? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. As I stated, it's my third media appearance of the day. So I did my first one. Yeah, 3.5 we could go with now. Right. But I did one for Zenoscope. I have something that was pre-recorded, and I'm here with you guys, and I got no complaints, and I don't know what we're talking about today.
Well, I don't know either, so we're just going to roll with it. I'm going to hop in.
Nobody knows. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to say, one of the things, Andrew, we were talking about before the show, we could go with this topic too, just to kick things off, was, other creators, indie creators tagging you on posts and promoting their products. Tell us a little bit about how you feel about that. I know you had some opinions there, so we want to just kind of cover that and let people know.
So it's twofold. So this is the problem that I think people and indie creators don't get, is that I get that you're trying to get your stuff seen and your shit seen. But what you don't understand is, people in indie comics, most people have another job. Your employer could be looking at it. And so you could technically, if you tag me in something that is obscene or offensive, or if I work in, and I'll give an example, I'm not a school teacher, but if I'm a school teacher and you tag me in a very pornographic graphic comic, that can affect me very negatively, and it creates a bigger problem for me, where then maybe my boss might call me and say, Andrew, what the hell is this shit? And now I'm getting chewed out by my boss because my boss saw something, and then it affects my job while you're trying to get your stuff seen. So that's one problem with it, is that you don't know who works where, who's looking at who. I mean, right now, openly, I'm looking for a job. I'm very protective of what's put up on my Facebook page. So when people tag me in a post, I don't know your comic. If I know, like, you guys tagged me, and that's fine because I'm a part of this, and that makes complete sense. But I don't know your comic. Your comic could be encouraging something I completely disagree with, and you think it's perfectly acceptable to tag me when I know nothing about your book. And even if I did an interview, that's a problem. And look, there's plenty of people who I like their product and their project, but I don't want them to tag me. And so that's one problem. And then secondly, if all you're doing is to tag me to try to use my audience, I'm not your whore. And I say that blatantly because
right.
I'm not your squeeze. Okay? You don't get to use my audience that I legitimately have spent the last 8 years building without my permission, without my saying so, and without me getting anything in return. So that's another thing that agitates the hell out of me, is that I've legitimately been interviewing people for almost 8.5 years now. Before that, I was running my website for 4 years, and I've been doing this so long, and I've built relationships, and I actually have real industry connections of people who have been at the top of DC, who have been at the top of Marvel. You know, I have a close friendship with people at Zenescope. Like, you don't get to just come entering my world so easily without me saying yes. You know, if you guys tag me, I'm part of this, and if I invite you in, sorry, there's a fly there. That's one thing, but I'm not going to introduce you to all my people that I know and all the cover artists I know because you tagged me, and then they think it's cool and they think you're cool. And then thirdly, I'm not part of the project. So if I'm not part of your comic and you're tagging me in, that becomes an issue too, because now somebody looks at it and says, oh, Andrew's part of that project. I'm not part of it. I'm not seeing a dime on it. I'm not seeing any money. I'm not getting credit, and that's a problem. And then fourthly, you know, to even go further into this, it's like, you know, it goes into just, you know, you keep tagging the same people over and over and over again.
Yeah, so I was going to say that.
There's somebody who was legitimately tagging me every fucking day. I don't want to have to keep removing it.
Right.
And then it gets worse, because then the person wouldn't even want to do an interview with me, and you're tagging me, which is saying fuck you to me. And obviously, I mean, I'm agitated. And look, it's happened twice now with two separate people, and I hope they see this. Don't fucking tag me or ask if I'm okay with it before you do it, because there's so many reasons why, and the 4 reasons that I mentioned don't matter on the first one, because I'm looking for work right now and I'm trying to keep my profile as clean as humanly possible, and you can be the difference between me getting a job and not right now. You could be the difference between me keeping my job and not anymore. You could be the difference between me getting chewed out on a Tuesday by my boss or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of things too. A lot of it too is that, you know, when we're tagging people, or they're tagging people, you know, 90%, maybe more, are not going to be buying your book, right? Everyone's trying to sell their book, right? But then they're tagging other creators.
I'm going to add one more point into this. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's
also, some people are very private, okay? That's the other thing too. You know, you might have, and I'll use Ralph Tedesco from Zenescope. I don't know. Me and Ralph, you know, it's weird where he's not that active on Facebook, but some people on Facebook might be beyond private, and they don't want to be tagged, and they don't want people. I'll give you a great example with wrestlers. Zenescope's a bad example. With wrestlers, some wrestlers don't use their real name. If you tag their real name, you're now hurting them, and you're now entering, and you're violating privacy. And so you might think
they could block it, right? I don't know why Facebook hasn't come up with that. Like, just say block tags, right? I mean,
so sorry to interrupt, but that's another thing.
No, that's a good point. No,
somebody's a masked wrestler, or Akira. Akira's a wrestler. Right. I know his real Facebook thing. I'm not going to go tag him on his Facebook thing, because he has Akira as his name and not something else, because he doesn't want people to find him on Facebook.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we see a lot of that too, even with just posting on groups, and it's kind of frustrating though. I mean, social media, right, with their algorithms limiting your exposure, you know, what people can see you, all that stuff. But I feel like a lot of indie creators are posting in other indie creator groups, man, and we're all trying to get our shit out there, right? And you're not going to find a very, I wouldn't say a large, you're not going to find a big, you got to figure out some other solution. It's difficult, right? So, you know, what are you going to do? Where's your base coming from? You got a brand new book. Where are you going to market it? Right, Facebook's only showing 5.2% of your shit. So where do you go ahead and put that thing?
So the answer, in a lot of ways, is a few things. It's you need to understand how to earn traffic and how to buy traffic. I think everybody here, in the indie group, hasn't figured out how to buy traffic cheaply. Right. Legitly, I know how to buy traffic cheaply. People think, oh, it's just a Facebook ad. No, it's not just a Facebook ad. You could buy spots on people's podcasts. You could buy people's banners. You could pay for somebody to interview you. I mean, that's not out of the question for me going forward at this point, because everybody needs media. Okay, you can go and take out an ad in a comic book. You could go take out, an ad in a calendar. I've been offered all of this stuff for the last 8 years, and I don't have an indie project. which is crazy because I have cosplayers say, hey, for $150, I'm hosting this calendar. I needed to get funded. Do you want to take out an ad for your website? For $150. I've been offered more advertising opportunities, both traditional and untraditional. And I mean, right now I'm just not advertising the way I should because I don't think it's the best rate of return. I think that free media is a better rate of return for me, but you legitly can buy in such a cheap way. If somebody gave me $500, I could buy you into legitly 50 shows and still have like $300 left. And then with that $300, I wouldn't even touch Facebook ads. Maybe I'd run a $100 Facebook ad, but the other $200, I would buy like an ad in a comic book, an indie comic book. I would buy something along those lines, and then we would plan this out 6 months in advance so that right when your book is getting funded and hitting the Kickstarter, because we would reverse engineer the entire thing. And I just think that a bunch of people are not creative and don't know how to think because most people who are creating comics have never run a business and have never been creative in this sense. And it agitates me. Because guess what? I'm figuring out how to do it. I mean, we're going to talk about what my big announcement, but it plays into this a little bit.
Yeah.
What I have going
definitely.
on.
No, that's good.
That's awesome.
I mean, it makes so much sense. You know, a lot of these people are doing it for the first time. A lot of them, Joel and I have talked about this too. Like, it's like a hobby almost to some of them. It's not a business. And I mean, we've talked in depth about the business side of stuff. You know, just as much as creating the story of a comic book, you know, where we see things going. Like, you got to have a plan. You can't just say, like, unless you really don't care. I mean, there's people that are putting something on Kickstarter, Indiegogo that don't care. They just want to get it out there to people. But
that's fine. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I just want to publish this thing. It's a dream of mine. I'm making $120,000. I don't want to dip into my own money to make this happen because Kickstarter is a platform and it's a distribution center. No problem with that. I got no problem with somebody saying, hey, you know what it is? All the money just going into the book and then even a little bit more, 500 of my money, but I'm not interested in a business. I just want to publish this story and then I just want to have a good time with it. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at this like a business, it's very different. And I think a lot of people are just lazy and they don't want to put in the effort. Now, somebody made a video and I like him. And he said, oh, you know, not everybody can be a comic creator. No, everybody can be a comic creator if you want to be. That's not the issue anymore. It's how badly do you want something? How much effort are you willing to put into this? Because I'm a podcast. I've been doing this shit for 8+ years. You know, I'm going to be hitting episode 400 at some point this year, around that number, maybe 380, 400, and I've been doing it for 8 years. It took me a long time to get good at this, but I put in a fuck ton of effort. Where, my first interview took me a week and a half to write. It takes me 3 to 4 hours at the most to write an interview now. But we're talking 8 years, and I've built that out and put in the work. Now, everybody can do what I'm doing. No question about it. But you look at it, and in the last, I would say 20 months, there has been 14 people who have been on my show who have started podcasts, including you guys. I would say out of those 14 or 15 people, 2 of them are still continuing regularly releasing episodes in a similar fashion that I am. And they are not doing the same volume I am doing. And while their numbers might be comparable to mine, and they might even be doing slightly better, they're not doing 4, 5, 6 a week. And a bunch of them just stopped doing it. Yeah. Because it's effort and it's sacrifice that goes into this. And I just think going back to the whole thing with creators, how many creators actually know how to book themselves onto shows and actually know how to send me a preview copy for it? Send me a description. Actually share the interview. Brilliant idea. I have a buy me a coffee. If you really want to get in my good graces, buy me a fucking coffee for $5. Seriously, buy your way in, because this is I'll give a little trade secret. I sponsored a bunch of wrestlers, and whenever I want an interview now, they remember that shit.
Yeah, we saw that in the fine art world, man. I had to pay like people to review my art and pay them $250 just to say that I sucked, but so I could have it on my resume to say that this person reviewed my art. Right? That's a lot of shit. Like, people don't realize that in the fine art world, it's all about money, and it's all about.
I could have done it for free.
Oh yeah, but no, you're not the name, so you got to buy the name, and right. So that's the thing. So now that I got the name, that opens opens up a door to a gallery where I might sell an $8,000 painting, right?
So for me, what it was is that I sponsored a wrestling event for the main event for $75. My logo was up there. It was announced that my name was up there. But guess what? I sponsored it. A bunch of other people are sponsoring matches. And guess what? Maybe, the whole sponsorship thing was $700 collectively over 10 matches. Or maybe it was $500 over 10 matches or something like that for everybody who sponsored. So my name got out there a little bit. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, hey, I'm buying goodwill, and this person remembers stuff. So if you go out there and buy me a coffee for $5, you probably are going to jump to the line a little bit quicker. The next time you got a Kickstarter, if you buy me a coffee for $25, I don't want to say I'm going to go suck your dick, but it's the idea that if you say, hey man, I got 3 days left, I need to be on your show, I'm like, okay, let's figure it out. I'm going to be willing to move very, very quickly for you, or I'm going to be paying attention every time your Kickstarter's up. I'm like, hey dude, I want to get you in. Let me know when you want to come on. Like there's people who I say, hey man, just keep me informed when your Kickstarter's hitting because I want you back on. And I don't have a problem. And I keep tabs on people who have taken care of me in that regard. Because guess what? $25 doesn't seem like a lot to you, but StreamYard's expensive. It gets pricey. And
we know. we got you. Yep. Yeah, it's like to your point. I mean, it is a shit ton of work. I mean, John Ruggiero and I were up till 2 a.m., right? Texting, right? Talking with each other, drawing, whatever, man. I mean, it's not something that we just do in passing, right? So you gotta be all in if you want to make it go. But like, to John's point, they're hobbyists that want to do it as a hobby. That's great. That's fine, man. Like, that's cool. But like, if you really want to do this, you got to make that blood bone sacrifice.
Like you should see how I run my comic book speculation, buying and selling books. There's a whole bunch of rules. There's reforming of rules. There's reanalyzation. You should see building a profit and loss statement and actually understanding how much things cost. And it's not like, eBay makes it a little bit easier to some degree, but understanding and then also evaluating things and saying, oh shit, I just bought a book for $25. I sold it for $140 and then I made $96 on it. But I bought this other book for $109 and I made $181 on it. I did not make good money on that CGC book, and I made a hell of a lot more money on this other book, pound for pound. And understanding that, and I don't even market on that. I just put it up on eBay, and I just happen to know how to buy my shit. But again, it's taken me years. I mean, this is 10 years in the making on just selling comics. And that's the other thing I think people don't understand is that, the indie world, a lot of people will speculate on indie. That's a brand new sector. And anybody who says, oh, I'm going to be the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I want you to be. But if we have 100 indie projects, 2 of them, at best, and that's me being generous, are going to be the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 30 years. And that's me being generous. And I'm not saying that to be discouraging. I'm saying as an investment, the home runs, and having a book that's worth $8,000 on an indie sector, that's a rough fucking route to go. And there's a big problem in indie with that right now.
Yeah, Andrew, we all are through those kind of, shite moments in our career. Most of the things are really hard. We have to fight a lot and get, shit in your face. But can you recall what's the motor behind it? What's the motivation that got you into doing it and facing all the crap that's out there? Can you recall it? And can you remind yourself why you do this? Because, it is hard. When I'm listening to you, I think,
I'll tell three things. So I came in where what happened when I was 18 is that I wanted to do panels and at cons because I was broke and I knew that if I did a panel, I got a free comic ticket. So I knew that if I did an hour worth of work, I would get a free ticket, and I happened to like Gundam. And so I said to myself, hey, let me come up with a new concept and let me come up with something. And I actually analyzed the Mobile Suit Gundam through the women. And that panel was a disaster, but I also realized, hey, I got a free ticket and I got destroyed on my first panel out. But I realized very quickly saying, oh man, I got to build this and I can never go backwards. My first real public speaking outing. And I wasn't like, oh man, I fucked up or I was shit, but I realized it wasn't good. So I had to rebuild it because I said, I'm never going to do that again. It was painful to be up there and not know exactly and have a very, very raw idea, but have a good idea. And I was actually speaking to an ensign who was in the military. I mean, and we're talking after. He's like, yo, man, you got a really good concept. And it kind of sounds crazy because I'm doing a military panel. I have a military officer essentially talking to me. And then I started building it and making it better and then better and then better. And then, obviously, I just said to myself, I'm never going to feel pain again. And then what wound up happening is that I started doing written interviews. And I said to myself, hey, man, nobody wants to read this stuff because nobody reads anymore. And then I jumped in and I started doing interviews. And then, you get another person. And I mean, it just sort of happened. I said, hey, I got to prepare because I can't have that same pain that I had at Anime Boston. And it wasn't Anime Boston's fault. I just, your first one out, was that way. And I can never have that again. And so then I said, hey, I have to prepare. But then it took almost 30, actually it took 43 interviews for me to start getting comfortable of just getting shitted on. But every time I did an interview, I got a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. But also I'm now interviewing all these people that I grew up watching on my first show, Popanimecomics Lounge. So I got to do the voice of Jimmy Neutron, voice of Zatch Bell. I got to do people like Hope Levy, who did Welcome to Doo-Rah from Shrek. She is the voice behind that song. I got to do people like Tiffany Grant, who is Asuka Lange from Neon Genesis Evangelion and Spike Spencer, and then you keep on getting better and better and better, and then that's what happens. And now I'm very comfortable on that, but I always was saying, hey, I can never be in that same position that first panel put me in, and then that's how I feel about everything. And then obviously I've been through economic downturn, and then it always goes back to pain. Whenever I'm in pain, I say, hey, I can't be putting myself in that position again. It's the same reason why I'm driven with comic book investing. I mean, what I do in my business, the brief summary is I take, I sell a comic book. If it cost me $25, I sold it for $140. After eBay, it's about $96 in profit. I take that $96, buy a dividend-producing stock. I then kick it into another $25 book. And my goal is never to be in economic pain ever again. It goes back to pain. So once I experience pain and something's uncomfortable, I don't go back to it. And I try to avoid it as humanly possible. And that's where I'm at. That's what I think creators have to understand. I think a bunch of creators just need to get kicked in the face enough times and say, I can't do this shit anymore. And that they have to say, I got to get better. And right now I'm going through a social media revolution where I'm like, I can't do this. And I'm slowly fixing that problem because my social media is shit and it's not becoming painful. And I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm just starting to fix the problem and find them, but it's because pain insists, and that's where I'm at.
So you're the type of person that needs to be spurred into action. Would be right to infer that you're more of a run away from pain than a go for the pleasure.
So my solution is that when I'm in pain, I need to put in solutions that get me out of pain and never put me there again. So for instance, I've been broke and I've been poor. I have taken in the last 8 years so many positions where I have put disciplines on myself to invest in the stock market, to save money, to manage my budget. There's been a bunch of cool shit. I haven't gone on vacation in 8 years because I'm protecting and building wealth. I don't feel like I'm running away. I feel like I'm preventing myself from ever going backwards. If tomorrow, I'm obviously in between jobs right now, but God forbid, if, I had a kid and he needed surgery and I didn't have insurance, I am in a position where I can easily afford to take care of that and not prevent it. That to me is not running away. That's going forward. That's saying we can obliterate through the problem. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I've been doing. And that's why I prepare so extensively. When I do interviews, I mean, I have 4 or 5 pages of questions. I actually read your comic because I don't ever want to be caught with my pants down.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great.
Fantastic. We've seen some people lately. Not naming names or anything, but some reviewers, man, they didn't even know like our names. They didn't know the name of our character in our book, and they're doing a review. And it's like, man, oh man, like, and then they're getting to a point where they don't want to do the reviews anymore. It's like you can at least read the book, I guess. Seem really ill prepared, I guess. To your point. Right.
So I haven't written a review. I'm actually going to be working on a review because I just got some from the Naval Press Institute of all places. They sent me a free graphic novel to review something, and I'm very excited to review it. But I actually read the book, and actually it's awesome. It's all about animals and warfare and the countless animals that are the unsung heroes. And I'm super excited to read it. But like when I review shit, I actually have to like your book or hate your book to review it. And then Scott Snyder, I wrote a very, very bad review on a Scott Snyder book. And he's like, yo, man, I'm really sorry you didn't like it. Really funny DM. And he still follows me on Twitter. He follows like 3,000 people, and I don't know why he follows me.
It's okay for people to tell you your shit. I mean, that happens. That means you put your stuff out in front of enough people because you're going to run into somebody.
Yeah. I made,
sometimes it really is shit.
But it wasn't that I just shat on the book. I legitly explained that, saying this is a comic and there was a fuck ton of prose in the book, and it didn't work for me. But this is what I mean by getting back to creators and even social media. I feel like I've been kicked. I go through pain and I say, okay, I got to solve these problems. And look, I'll be 100% honest. One of the things that I say sometimes is that maybe the solution to your problem is hiring somebody. Maybe the solution isn't that you need a skill. You need to find somebody who has that skill. So maybe my solution for my business isn't so much to say, hey, I want to be a social media expert. I'm a really good interviewer. I enjoy interviewing. I fucking hate social media. Okay? Right now, I can't afford somebody, so I'm going to do the best I can. But if I raised $4,000, I would hire somebody part-time off of Upwork on social media. And that's another thing that I think creators don't understand is saying, hey, maybe I suck at this. So let me go hire somebody on a freelance contract base to solve my problem.
It's also about balancing your time, right? How much time do I want to spend shit posting on Facebook, or do I want to actually be drawing my book, right? And my stupid ADD kicks in. Next thing you know, I'm looking at baseball cards or sport, comics, and I'm like, shit, man, I just lost 40 minutes. I mean, I could have just worked on my book for that time, right? So, yeah, but I guess it's also part of that success too, right? You can get to the point where you can tell social media to go fuck itself, like James Tinian just did, right? From Something's Killing the Children. He's not doing social media anymore, but he's at that level of success where he doesn't need it, right? He doesn't need it anymore. Yeah. So that's awesome. So that's like, man, if I could get to that point, that would be great. So, or have somebody run like your ghost account, but then you got to be careful that someone is not being weird and posting random shit that's not really your voice too. So you'd have to kind of edit through that stuff and make sure it's somebody that you can really work with, that you trust, I guess, in that regards also.
Who's this Ozzy guy? I don't know. This Ozzy guy. I mean, he's probably playing with swords and sorcerers, isn't he?
Dude, that's a good book. It looks tight.
It looks great. It looks great. Ozzy knows I'm joking.
I'm a fan. Yeah, man.
Ozzy knows I'm joking when I say that. Obviously, I'm super excited for it. It looks great, and I'm actually probably gonna back it on Indiegogo because I have to. And now that I said it publicly, I'm gonna have to go pick it up because it's a Simon Baisley cover. So really cool. It's I think one of Simon Baisley's only indie books.
That's who I was thinking of. We were talking earlier with the beer can. That's who I was thinking of. He worked with Danzig too. He did the Thrall Demon Sweat Live cover.
So I don't know if I could legally show this, but it's called the Zombie Dust.
Anything. We have no rules.
And Zombie Dust is by a company called Three Floyds. And Three Floyds is very comic book oriented. They have a comic book actually out called Alpha Kings. And they have a beer called Alpha Kings. And it was purposely. And curious, I'm not going to say who. I'll say a little bit later who did this thing. But obviously, this is what it looks like. And I'm curious for those who are watching, take your guess on who did the cover a little bit on this, or the wraparound on the beer can. And as a DC comic artist, he's worked for Heavy Metal. He's writing for Heavy Metal. He might be their editor-in-chief at Heavy Metal. And so obviously, I'll probably tell everybody who it is, but that's a fun game for people who are watching. I'll give everybody a few minutes to figure it out.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe we'll have a contest. I got some posters I can give away. We just got some new posters in. So if somebody gets it right, I'll send you a poster. How about that? We'll do that.
I'll tell in 10 minutes if everybody wants to play. But it's this idea that it's very but that book looks awesome. But we can talk about anything else. I mean, or we can talk about this. I'm totally down.
There you go.
Well, I got my face being drawn in that book, so I'm pretty excited to see that. I don't know. I'll probably just be some bum in the background, but it was worth it. That campaign by the way, Ozzy's campaign, like the value in those tiers, I've said it 1,000 times, are just insane. Like $60, your face is in the book. Like no one does that.
He's not making money on that.
No.
I think it's a part of our Livid marketing budget at this point, John. I think it's a prerequisite.
Hopefully by now he has.
To Andrew's point about cross promoting and getting your face literally in other platforms, right? So yeah, how can you pass up $60? I'll probably tip over my couch and find it in the
I would love right now. I am money's tight, and this is the other thing that I think creators don't understand is that. So how many people know where Hellboy's first appearance was?
I don't.
Oh God, that was in the 90s or early 90s.
No. Hellboy's first appearance wasn't in Hellboy.
Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't.
It was in Sin City.
No kidding.
That's why it looks like Marv.
It was in Sin City, almost in a poster. So think about this, right? So I'm a big Montione fan. There's a thing called Haloid. There's been stuff in Haloid that was advertised. And Haloid's amazing. It's basically a Master Chick, which is Halo's female version, and Samus Aran team up, and they're fighting all these enemies from Haloid and the Metroids. It's awesome. It's a fan thing. It's one of the greatest things you could watch. That'll just make you smile. There's a great dance scene at the end. It's in one of my favorite. I run a panel and I play that clip every single time, and I play it in clips.
Beautiful.
Panels that I don't even have, and I'm like, guys, this is perfect. And everybody's like, dude, this is awesome, because nobody knows about it. But there were so many advertisements in there because people would say, hey man, I'll back this, but can you do this? He's like, yeah, before Monty passed. And so this idea that if I have a character, so I have a cute little elf as my logo, and it's on my shirt. I don't know, I'll show everybody my shirt. So that's my elf, right? So what would it be like if I said to somebody, said, hey, would you put my elf in your book? Don't say anything. Just throw it in there. And all of a sudden, now it has a cameo. Now something's going on. Or better yet, what if I bought a half a page advertisement and somebody said, hey, now my book's funded? Okay, that's the whole thing of promoting, is that it's cool to have your face drawn in something, but if somebody's doing that, they're going to draw whatever you want. So why not draw your fucking character from your indie comic in there, and you say, oh, yeah, I'm in this book. You don't have to tell anybody that you paid for it. Nobody cares. But then you could say, oh, boom. And then if you're really smart in business, you pick up at a wholesale price 20 of those copies. You say, oh, yeah, my character's in this book. Better yet, you have your character and your Kickstarter didn't happen. That's your character's first appearance. Now you're really making money.
I love it. Hey, Ozzy, Will from Yule might be in Sword in the Sorcerer, not my face.
So my point is that this is how you get creative in comics, and so many people don't understand. And look, I find that I mean, if I have my little elf in a book, and then I'm not, maybe I'll draw eventually a comic because I happen to have a goblin and elf fetish, but that's not the point. It's the idea that I love elves. Why do you think my logo's an elf? I love fucking elves. Right. It's amazing.
So spoiler alert, there's a naughty and nice list that comes up in Yule 2. So to your point, you could have your character's name on the naughty or nice list if you wanted to, not necessarily a caricature, but if you want to drop a name, man, I'm not opposed to that. We could throw something in there. So.
And obviously, she's getting this elf is getting a little sister, and I don't have a name for her yet. So I'm coming up with something soon. She's been around for like 8 years, and I don't have a name for her yet, but she's getting a little sister soon. And
I think a contest is in order for that, Andrew. I think you got to have somebody name the elf and have some kids involved, because my daughters would love that. They'd be all over that. So I throw that at my girls, and they come up with a name like nobody's business, man. They're creative as hell. So
as long as it's a little Japanese, will be good.
All right, I'll tell them go Japanese, honey, but come up with a name, and they'd probably rip something up. It'd be good.
So my point is that this is where you get creative. Is that. And this is what I find comic creators aren't creative. They're not thinking how to do something. And it drives me mad because I really can't write for shit and I'm super swamped. I shouldn't say I can't write, but I'm super swamped with about 15 things going on in my life right now. And it's called Finding a Job is looking for a job. And the book I want to write, it's a very, very sensitive book. about a very, very, very sensitive topic, and the marketing strategy for it is unlike anything that can be done. And I'm arguably probably one of the only people who can pull it off, just because who I know in DC will probably sell the book way quicker than anything else. But the idea is that right now I don't want to take on that project because I would rather make money with comics. I would rather do my podcast and all that stuff because that's kind of front and center, and I'm investing and right now things are working in a lot of ways. So I don't want to start fucking around with the things when they're working.
Right. I wonder if any of the big guys would ever do anything crossing over with indie, like to that point, right, where they could do something like that, right? You could pay DC or Marvel to throw your character in there, right? It might be $5,000, might be $10,000, maybe. Right?
So the closest thing I've seen with that is Crunchyroll has their character Heim-chan, and yeah, that's right, Ozzy. I did good on that with a great business plan, but we're gonna keep that in the vault for a reason. At least on air, we're going to keep it in the vault. But Heim-chan has done stuff with Microsoft and Xbox, and they've done big brand, things. And I know it's not comic oriented, but there's been stuff where that's happened. But I would love it. I would pay 20 G's easy. If my elf was in Batman and in a legitimate position, knowing it was there, oh yeah, I'd pay good money for it. Without a doubt.
Seems like a revenue stream they're missing out on. I mean, that could be something legit, right? So put yourself in there. Who cares? Yeah.
So I pay good money for it, but I just think people need to get creative, and I get it. I'm going to ask you guys a question, all three of you. Yeah, your Kickstarter goes. You've been pumping it. You've been pushing. You've been doing interviews. What happens when it's over and you're like, what is the first reaction? You got funded, you're doing great, you've been pushing it hard for 30 days, right? It's been everything. You don't know if it's a failure or it's a success. Not from the creative side. I'm not worrying about the creative side. I'm just worrying about the actual instrument to get it done. And then you now have bigger problems saying, okay, how do we ship it? How do we print it? Where do we print it? How do we get some stretch goals taken care of? How do we make sure that we stay up to date? What is your first reaction when all of that is done and the book's funded and you actually have money to print?
I think with us, like when we were doing UL1, like that was all planned out before we launched our Kickstarter much later than we ever would have wanted, because we wanted the book done before we even launched, and we wanted to have everything ironed out. So like legit, as soon as Kickstarter ended, it's a matter of clicking print the books, like here you go.
So I'm gonna ask a question.
Yeah.
Was it though saying, oh man, we pushed really hard, we can breathe now, and now we don't have to get the creative business side taken care of, right, or the business side, and we don't now have to worry about all the moving gears, and we can just pause the gear and take our foot off the gas? No. Because the reason why I asked this is that imagine you're a creator, you've been pushing hard for 30 days. Most people want to take their foot off their gas. Right. I understand. I used to work and I would go hard for 5 days on Friday night. I would drain half a bottle of alcohol to unwind, play video games, and watch wrestling on my Friday. And then I would turn back up. And at that point, I was doing like 1 or 2 interviews a week. And believe me, like I take Thursdays off. I am clocked out on Thursday. If you hit me up on Thursday, that is the worst day to hit me up. Because I take Thursdays off. I work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursdays I am unavailable because I will die. But my point is that a lot of creators say, hey, I don't want to push this anymore. I've created the book. I've got this thing done. I have gone so hard that I don't want to do the Twitter post. I don't want to do the extra interview. Hell, I don't blame them. When I do 4 interviews a week, I don't want to do a 5th one. And I don't want to be a guest on people's shows. Now, reason why I want to be on your show is that I got to start doing it a lot more. And I'm now figuring out that I took a long hiatus, and I'm about to go on a media tour, essentially, because I need to get back out there doing it. I got some stuff coming, and some cool stuff's happening now in my life that it's important for me to be out doing this again. But I get it. And that's what most creators are at. You guys maybe are the exception. But even still, I would imagine that you eased up a little bit on the gas because
well, I think
yeah,
I think for us, and I think for me and John especially, it's just this. It's an endless nagging voice at you to go, and I'm very excited to see what's next. So, like, I mean, shit, man, I'll wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning just because I have an idea and I can't get out of my head, right? And I got to go, right? So I sleep about 4 hours a night on average. That's my deal. And it's just, I want to see what's next. So I don't think I could stop if you paid me to stop. Like, I don't think I could. It's just, I go to a honeymoon with my wife and we're on for a week down in the Caymans and I'm there for 3 days. Like, can we get a flight earlier to go home? Because I'm anxious. Like, let's go. Like, and that's, I think you got to have that drive in business, right? I talked to a guy that was a corporate pilot this week in my day vocation. And he said, man, you think these billionaires are sitting there like, fooling around when they're not, working at the office. He's like, man, they come in the plane, they set up their stuff, they break open papers while we're flying. It's endless work. They do not shut that thing off. They don't watch television. They're just working. I think, it goes back to earlier point of conversation. If you want to be a hobbyist, cool, right? That's fine. But where do you want to go with this? I think a lot of people don't have that vision. It's like, you got to have a port that you're heading to so you can steer the ship towards that port. And on top of that, I've always said that success is a 5-pronged attack. You got to pick out 5 ways to attack something, right? You got social media, you got your website, you got your Kickstarter. Like, so I don't know what the other 2 are. Your local comic book shop, I guess, and something else. But pick whatever you want. But you got to find 5 things to make that one thing become a reality. And I don't think a lot of people think like that. They say, okay, we'll just do the Kickstarter, done. It's like, okay, well, what's next? And I guess at the point we're kind of running into that too, right? So where do we go with Yule 1? We tapped our social media audience. We got that out. We did our Kickstarter audience. Okay. So what's next? I can give you a little, look under the tent here. I don't think I'd want to approach an LCS yet until I have 3 books that are done, printed, and sitting in my warehouse, ready to go. So that way, every month I can get a book to them. I don't want to give them a book now and have their customer wait 7 months for my book next issue 2 to come out. And it's not good for them. It's not good for us. So if I can be 3 months ahead, that's awesome. And then, so I'm working on, when 2's out, I'm really working on 4, and when 3's out, I'm working on 5, or maybe even they're all done. I don't know. So that's kind of where we're coming from.
Yeah, guys, there's a funny thing. Whenever I go out, which is coincidentally on Thursdays. Thursday is my day when I go out. I go with my band. We do some rock and roll, and I meet people who really love my drawings, especially with the dead ball, the ones that I have shown, and they say, "Man, this is Marvel stuff. This is DC stuff. You should be with the big tree up there." And I say, I reply to them, actually, I really don't. I don't look for that. That's not my main goal. And when I say that, I don't know what would happen if I get like a fucking great proposal from them. But I don't think.
You kick us to the curb. It's okay.
But I don't think.
Use us and lose us, Ruggiero, like a whore. You just kick us right out of here. Here's some cab fare. Beat it. Get out of here.
That's most likely, but I don't think I will have the same freedom. When you're in the indie industry, you have real conversations with people and you can negotiate. When you go there, you cannot negotiate. They will make the decisions for you, and you actually would be a robot to them, because I don't see much of the creativity that I used to see in comics back then. Now,
I agree.
You go to a comic book from DC, you see Superman, and then Wonder Woman or whatever. It's like it was done by the same artists, and I don't like that. I don't like those kind of stuff. And Andrew, when you start on a project, that was just an introduction for my question. When you start on a project, what is the most important thing that you look for on the skill set of any artists that you want to work with?
So it's super interesting. I'll use a real life example. I was about to enter the variant game, but I had a financial hiccup where money had to be utilized to something else. So I was actually looking at a lot of artists to book covers. And I'm in a weird position because I had about 3 artists in my mind, and I'm looking for somebody who is versatile. I'm looking for somebody also who can take criticism and isn't going to take it personal, because I know people on a personal level. But, as a business, I need to also say, hey, if you didn't do what I wanted you to do, you have to know that this isn't personal. You're not being fired, but you're going to have to modify it. So I look for attitude a lot, actually. And even when I'm looking for interviews, I look for attitude. Depending on who it is, someone says, hey, man, something happened. I had an emergency. I'm really sorry. I'm like, yeah, no worries about it. So I get it. But, people no-show me. And that's an attitude question. And so obviously skill is important. I can't go sit here and tell Ebass, and I know Ebass pretty well, and I like Ebass. And hopefully Ebass likes me, and people might know who Ebass is, Eric Basaluda. But I can't go and pull the same leverage with Ebass that I can with, somebody else per se. But at the same time, Ebass has been very professional. I look for that too. Where, whenever I'm doing something, at least in art or even an interview, I need to deal with people who are professional. I can't deal with somebody who is not professional. People have to meet a certain caliber. It's okay to take risks. Like, I'll be honest with you two. I took a risk on you guys.
I say that all the time. You were like our second, you were first or second opportunity for us as far as interviews.
But when I got Ebass, that wasn't a risk. I knew exactly who Ebass was, and I was fortunate.
We're still a risk, Andrew. We're still a risk.
No.
Yes, sure.
No, but I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Where it's the idea that I need professionalism. The skill has to be there. The caliber has to be there. Your attitude has to be appropriate. Because guess what? You can be the most skilled person in the world, but if you're a fucking asshole, like, it's not gonna work. I mean, I'm gonna ask a question, and I think I know the answer to it, but I'll tell my answer first. I don't want to do business with an asshole. Okay, I don't want to do business with an asshole. I now look. There's people who can act like an asshole whenever they want because they have that clout. But I don't want to do business with people who are assholes, and I don't make money with people who are assholes.
Yeah.
And so there's people out there who have been assholes to me, and they gave up a lot of fucking money because I know certain people in the industry. It's just there are people who are not getting contracts who are great writers by DC, Marvel, Image, Zenescope, Boom Studios because they're an asshole, and they respond to people on Twitter and on Facebook a certain way, and guess fucking what? It's watched. It's known. I happen to have a lot of people that I know who are pretty high up in certain companies, and if they're not high up in a company and I tell them about somebody, they'll fucking tell that company what I want them to hear. And I'm in a unique breed because I'm 28 and I have more access into the comic world being non-comic related, having never written a comic. And I don't say that to brag. It's not a bragging point. It's the fact that I have interviewed Ralph Tedesco, who is one of the co-founders of Zenescope, twice now. I've interviewed a lot of fucking people. Dave Franchini is one of them. If you go back on Zenescope's VIP stream today, I was joking with David Wall while in a press release, joking around in a way, and he was joking back. And I never met David Wall, but he knows who I am. So it gives an idea that, there's certain things like that. And I think that's what I look for in a project is, those bunch of attributes, because that's what's going to make something successful or not. Is you need the skill to just reiterate. You need an attitude position. You need to know how to interact with people, communication, and then professionalism.
Do you think that the asshole attitude comes over time, or is that something that they have from the jump? Is it like they taste some success and then they start to get a little bit cocky, or is that something that they're just always there?
I think it's always there, because Ebass is not an asshole. Ebass.
Right, yeah. It's probably a defense, right? It's something emotional, right? Most people put up that front. If you crack through that wall, I mean, they're probably like Rosario and I were talking before the show. There's a diamond in everybody, but sometimes it's hard to get there, right?
So JP Roth, Dawn Mateague, Ralph Tedesco, those people are massively successful. Raven Gregory, and I'm name dropping for a reason. A guy like Anthony Green is the nicest guy out there, who was August Gray in WWE, and now he's back on the Indies. Not an asshole. Okay, I would name somebody who's an asshole, but he's blocked on Facebook because he crossed the line with me multiple times, and he's an asshole. And I think it's always been there. I just think the success came second. I think the assholeness came first. And my goal is that I asked the question, and this is what I'm always going to ask. And at some point, this person's going to be called out in a very public way with me. And I don't know exactly, but it's coming down the pike eventually. But I'm going to say, are you a gatekeeper? Because his response to me was very gatekeeping, in my opinion. Or are you an asshole? And both those questions and both those answers are not good. Because if you're a gatekeeper, well, why the fuck are you in comics? Now you look bad. If you're an asshole, great. Who wants to do business with an asshole?
Yeah, I'm stuck with Joel, so we're together. So, but no.
What'd you say? I didn't catch it.
I said I'm stuck with Joel, so he is what he is. But
you can buy me out, buddy. It's okay. I'm
no. But you guys get where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
Which I think there's a real problem in comics.
It's a repeating
right
theme.
now.
It's a repeating theme. Like somebody was talking about that, talking about, I guess, assholes, and I was like, we're new kids to the game. I haven't tasted it yet, as much. And I was like, I said something like, yeah, bring them on the show. I'll talk to them because I like to talk to challenging people too. So I'd like to figure out.
So we could talk about problems with indie. I know you guys are new, but I've been doing this forever now. I've been doing this as far as real indie shit since March of 2020. March, I think 25th or 30th. I forget now. But people drop the tag support indie. Well, support indie doesn't just mean supporting indie comic people. And I got a bone to pick. It also means supporting, indie reviewers. It also means supporting indie education in comics. It also means supporting indie lawyers who are writing your contracts. There's a particular person or two I'm thinking about with that one. It means supporting all the fucking indie podcasts that are out there doing shit. Now, that doesn't mean open up your checkbook, but that's a big thing. Opening up your wallet goes a long way. And if you say, hey, I support indie comics, but you don't support the infrastructure dealing with it, then what are you really supporting? You're just saying, hey, I'm a Kickstarter supporter. And let's call a spade here. Let's not pretend anymore. And so when I have Buy Me a Coffee, and I would say my success rate on that is like 4%. Okay? Not saying I need your money, but fucking share the interview. I have people looking at 400 or 500, things, and it's an issue where I get 6 shares.
I'm sorry, but when you say buying a coffee, that immediately reminds me that for $25 we can get something else.
I think they go a little hard in Brazil, Andrew. They go a little deep in the paint down there.
No. My point I'm trying to get at is that.
Sorry.
And I know where you're going with this. No. But I've always said on my show that, hey, look, money's tight. I get it. But guess what? A share is free. If you can't share my interview and say, hey, I want to support indie, share my fucking interview. I would much rather, if I interviewed you, man, and I said, and I knew, I hate, and it kills me, is that a lot of these people who enter, like, oh, man, I'm going to support you because you're great. I'm like, that's not what this is for. This is exactly what it's not for. All the people that I interview, I don't want you to fucking pay my fucking StreamYard. What I want is half your followers to say, yo, man, I'll throw you $1 here because, dude, this was super interesting. Or, oh, man, this is dope. Or, hell, I said it a bunch of times. I said, guys, money's tight. Don't go into debt for me. I'm the first person that understands that. My entire business, I've legitly dug myself wall fucking climb after wall climb out of debt and making sure that I don't wind up back in there. And I have sacrificed a fuck ton of shit. Sorry, there's a fucking fly here. It's driving me crazy.
I'm out on the porch, man. I got the bug zapper going, so I mute this thing because it sounds like electric chairs going on behind me if I don't. So, which I have to because the mosquitoes will kill me. Do you think that it's apathy or laziness as to why people wouldn't do something as simple as sharing?
I think that people are just fucking lazy, and I think people, they don't view it the same way. You say, hey, buy my book, right? it's the idea that I also think that people say they don't know what they're getting. It's also capitalism and it's exchange. But what you're getting is that we don't view information the same way. We don't view free information the same way. That's what I really think it is. I think you say, "Oh, this is a free podcast." If I put a price tag of a paywall of $100 behind my podcast, somebody would have a different perception of it very, very quickly.
We call that in economics the tragedy of the commons, right? And what that means is like you look at a public bathroom, right? It's trash because nobody owns it, right? The overfishing out in the ocean happens because nobody owns that ocean. But if you gave that sector of the ocean to Star-Kissed tuna, they're going to police the shit out of that and make sure no one's out there poaching their fish, right? It's called the tragedy of the commons. It's a real thing. Whereas if people don't have a financial interest in it, like you said, they're not going to give a shit. If it's free, they're like, yeah, whatever. Andrew will be there next week. What do I care?
So this segues right into my point. So for those who don't know, and I haven't announced it, I just basically signed a sponsorship, which is going to be pretty much covering for 48 episodes. So you're going to have to listen to a sponsor for the next 48 episodes because guess what? Cool. Now, look, my sponsor is a comic printing company. It's not like it's out of the random. Joe's Pizza, guys in Nevada, go at Joe's Pizza. No, it's a legitimate printing company. They're small, and I'm legitimately just waiting for their finance team to send me the money. They wrote me copy, and it's going to be very, very exciting. But it's this idea that, well, that covers, I would say, the majority. Whenever I pick up, it's going to cover my year StreamYard, a little bit extra, and it's only 48, 50 episodes, and it's Maxim printing. Now, I know some people like Maxim, some people don't. Some people say they're expensive. I'm totally fine with that, but all those people who are complaining, well, you're not paying my bill. So there you go, but that's how this is going now. And furthermore, I'm looking for other ways to monetize as well, and that's the stage we're entering. And the reason why I bring this up is that I wanted this to be a fan-based show. If everybody that I interviewed, I'm doing anywhere from 160 to 180 interviews. I'm probably going to wind up, wow, I can't speak, around 170. If everybody gave me $5, we wouldn't need a sponsor.
Right.
But now,
everybody's got bills, right? At the end of the day, everybody's got bills, right? We gotta get paid.
So $5 is what we're talking about. And guess what? If people said, "Hey, I'll pay you $5, can I have you on my show?" I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. So that's where we're at. And it's super exciting for me because, well, the reason why this is very important is that it allows for season 3 to occur. Because as of pretty much where I'm at right now economically, with because I have a lot of assets, I do not have a lot of cash poor. That's why I'm very, very not backing Kickstarters, and I regrettably can't back Kickstarters at the moment because I'm cash poor. I have assets. I'm manning my ship. I'm ensuring my business interests with comic book investing. But now that I have a sponsor, that covers and allows for season 3 of Conversations in Pop Culture to occur, which means that another 100 and probably 50 people are going to be able to be interviewed in 2022, which is a vested interest. Now, see, everybody now has a vested interest in this because guess what? Your Kickstarter could be now on another show.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Andrew. I saw an interview that you did with.
Oh,
great! This is going to be fun. No, I'm kidding. Please.
Yeah. What's her name? I think I can't pronounce her name. It's Jew something. And you have shown that you have a kind of a sturdy background on wrestling and those kind of things, and this is something that kind of brought me to draw a U-turn because it was about wrestling and stuff, and I love that. Unfortunately, it's not big here in Brazil, but I used to watch some shows there, all those guys, since I was little. And what do you think of this kind of a crossover between people in that kind of field, which is, it seems, apparently completely divorced from comics, and the, I'd say, initiative to draw some comics driven in that way. And I think those are not related in any way.
So let me clarify the question.
There's a connection in there.
I want to clarify the question, just so I get my answer correctly. Are you saying there's not a connection between wrestling and comics?
I think that there's a connection between comics and anything, but I'm talking about the audience, like when you like to see poppers.
I knew I was right on the money with my formation of Popanimecomics, because I've been interviewing wrestlers for a long time, been writing about wrestling. Now, WWE has this tag team called the New Day. So the New Day is Big E, Kofi Kingston, and Xavier Woods. They just had a 250 print run comic released today out of Boom Studios. Wow. Now, no. Let me explain. There's a company called Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll and WWE has a network. Two separate companies. So now, for the first 3 months, you could get 3 months of WWE Network, which is $10, and $8 for the first 3 months per month is Crunchyroll, all for $30. Now, I understand it's not comics, but all of a sudden you took an anime position and you had wrestling, and they basically combined them into a deal trying to get people who are into anime into wrestling and wrestling into anime. And I knew at that point there is a connection, and that the audiences are not that far off. Now, the reason why I bring this up, and this was maybe about 3-4 years ago, the reason why I bring this up is that comics and anime and comics and wrestling are not that far off either. Because what's now starting to happen is that all these people who like Marvel Cinematic shit love wrestling, love anime, and they're all the same audience because the people who like this shit love it. And now what's happened, I think people have deconstructed it and said, this is storytelling, and we're just putting different components and different gears in there. And they're now saying, I get it, and I understand. So I think the audience, maybe we're talking about a degree of separation between those three. Because I think when you look at the core, my company is called Popanimecomics. It's not called, it's pop culture is the pop. Anime is anime and comics. There's a connection between all three of them. And people were crazy to think that I'm interviewing wrestlers, voice actors, comic writers, and cosplayers. Well, if you start looking at this and you start talking to people who like anime, they like wrestling. People who like wrestling like comics. I guarantee you, I'll tell an even crazier story. So there's this comic shop called Oh Yeah Comics. It's to my parents. It's the greatest story with my parents. I don't know how familiar you guys are with wrestlers and AEW by any chance. Do you guys know who the Young Bucks are by any chance?
I do.
John goes deep in the paint on the wrestling front. So John's the wrestling guy.
so and Chris Daniels, you probably know, and Kazarian, right?
Yeah. So you interviewed him, right? Kazarian the other day.
Both of them.
Yeah. Oh, really? I didn't see. Okay.
It's super cool. So what wound up happening is that at this comic shop, you have Chris Daniels, Kazarian, and the Young Bucks signing a print. And there's 25 people at this comic shop before a Ring of Honor show. And they're in a comic shop signing a print done by Art Belzer, who is one of the co-owners of Oh Yeah Comics. And he did this print, and they're signing for free if you buy the print for $25. 25 people in there. They got like 50 prints. Great. I couldn't go because I was taking a final in Washington, D.C. So my parents went, and there's photos of me on my Facebook page of my mom and my dad holding the belts of the Young Bucks. And it's a crazy gift because that print is worth a lot of money for what it is. It's a great ROI. And it's this idea, though, that why would wrestlers show up in a comic shop? And I think that sells it all. And I knew on 2 points that wrestling has hit comic fans, and it is bigger than ever. It is the easiest thing is to convert people from anime to comics into wrestling and vice versa. All three of those things are the same thing now.
At the end of the day, it's entertainment content, right? That's what we're making. right? It's entertainment content for everybody. Even the show, hopefully, it's entertaining to somebody. You know, and we don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into necessarily just doing comics and that kind of stuff. I mean, we're having some guys on Wednesday. They're into you know, natural farming, raw milk, and powerlifting. Like, I just want to talk to interesting people. I don't care. Like, I'll talk to anybody. Like, it's fun. Like, I learn stuff every time I talk to somebody. It's awesome. It's more. It's much as for me as for everybody else. So maybe, you know, it's a little bit selfish, but I like that too, because I learn. Like, I walk away from these shows and I have never not learned something every show.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, whenever I ask a question to a guest, I truly hope that I was asked the same question. So I'm going to throw that to you. What kind of question would you like to answer and was not asked?
Okay, this is the moment. So I love when people ask me a question like this. Andrew,
which is easy.
If you could fight one gigantic duck that could be broken up into 20 little ducks, or would you rather fight 20 little ducks that essentially could be formed into one gigantic duck, and why? I just recently asked somebody this question on somebody else's show, and the host started laughing, and I couldn't even finish the sentence because the story behind that is that
here you have the option here just to ignore it completely and to say shut up.
The story behind that question is some guy snuck in to a UFC question and answer thing. He created a fake pass, and he was going to ask Conor McGregor that question on his YouTube channel and like film it. And then he was like, I didn't ask him that question, but it was a ridiculous video, and that's where I got that question from, because I thought it was the funniest thing. But then I started analyzing the question, and it really tells you what type of person you are, one way or the other. And at first, when I was on this show and I asked this question, it was a political show, and I was the only, you know, right-leaning person on that show, which is even funnier that I would ask such a creative question. I asked the most creative question possible I could think of, at least I think, and I'm biased because I like myself at this point. And I probably just shot and ruined half my interviews for the next 6 months with that statement, but I digress. But anyhow, what happened is they started laughing, but then as the question was being asked and answers were sort of being given, they were like, wait a second, this was a very interesting question, because it tells you exactly what type of person a person is when they answer that.
I just think that this when somebody's lazy, they ask that kind of question. You know, like, fuck, I have no questions.
No. But that's the thing. What I find with lazy people, they say, tell me about your book. Oh, how'd you do that? And they ask all these softball questions. Now, I always start an interview asking, hey, what is the basic premise of your book? But then we start diving into it, because I want to get everybody a little bit familiar, and I want the creator to talk. And I start with softball questions because it's just the way to do it. But then I say, okay, so now we look at this character and his parents are fighting, and then now he all of a sudden is in the middle of this hell, and I'm describing this book. I'm describing your book to some degree. And now he's being thrown into a world where people want to kill him. And the question is he going to get home? And now the problems of his parents arguing about money is slightly insignificant to the fact that he's world hopping, and that he now needs to deal with a much larger problem, because his parents fighting about, oh, Will spent $2 more on a Christmas gift isn't, you know, the main issue.
Yeah.
I'm more of asking the questions like clowns, funny or scary. Like, that's about the depth I go.
If somebody asked me that kind of question, I would just fuck around. I will say something like, all right, how big is your dick? And I would make something up. It would be great. That you just spoiled that. It could have done this here, because like with no limits.
Well, no, I mean, but to Joe's point, I mean, the thing, like with our day jobs, we're basically trained to ask open-ended questions. So like, it's just so important in interviews. You know, it's you just ask and let them talk, like you said, Andrew. Like, let the guests talk. You know, that's how they're going to get their product sold. That's how each show is going to be unique. So
it's so tricky though with that, because I ask very open-ended though. I like to try to leave open-ended stuff, but I also like to steer interviews, because I mean you're going into something and you're dealing with complicated shit. Like, I'm trying to think of a situation that was like that, where we were diving into something that had to be steered but also had to be open-ended. It's so interesting when you're dealing with stuff like that.
Yeah. No,
I think an interview is like dating. If you're a Casanova, you can go right most of the times. But if you're just a normal Joe, you can go all right. You can go or you can go really, really wrong.
Oh my God!
When you do that, you're out of business. So.
Oh my God! I went through a bad interview just recently, and it wasn't anybody's fault. Sometimes people are just not in the mood, and oh my God, that thing was painful. That's one of the most.
We've run into that. So,
I mean, how many interviews have you done though? See, this is what's crazy.
So outside of here, I did podcasts outside of this too in my past. So I've run an automotive show. I think we got up to about 75 shows on that one. So yeah, I've been down that hole before with it too.
So for me, this is the first one in a long time, and I'm pulling teeth, and just, and I like her. She's great. It was just bad. It's just bad.
It's like Ruby Rod interviewing Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element, right? It's just like, how you feeling? He's like, fine.
Yeah.
Thrilled.
We've had a couple instances
answers,
like
right?
Already, so it's, I mean, because you can only, if they give them one word answer, I mean, some people could be the best creatives in the world, but they can't talk, and I respect the people that, like, I've actually asked a few people to come on that would say, I'm an introvert, I can't talk. So I'm like, thank you for saying that, instead of having a terrible show,
Oh my God. When somebody says they're an introvert, I'm like, please come on my show, because I will make you an extrovert in an hour or less. I am the person to do it. It's not a joke anymore. It's like I've had Sanju Navagun on, and he's very introverted. I'm like, dude, you come on, dude. I'm going to throw you softball questions. I get English isn't your first language. I don't really give a fuck what my audience says. I don't care about my audience, because guess what? I 90% of the time know what's best in an interview, because I've been doing this so long, and I'm going to give you the best interview. And I've had people from my audience be like, yeah, I didn't really buy into what you were doing, and then, man, I listened to this and you were right. Like, I've had people say that to me, and I'm like, great, now you get it.
Yeah, it's like you have to make yourself loose, and like give you permission to make mistakes. It's just like in a bar, like you're talking and someone agrees, and whatever. And I'm actually when I mention a bar, I mean a real bar, because I'm drinking here, and my Fridays are here with those guys here, like creating, doing comics, and talking about this and whatever comes. And whenever I have a guest here, it's something really unusual, unexpected, because like we don't have a plan, we don't have an agenda, we don't have like a list of questions. 10 minutes before the show, I told the guys, like I didn't have the time this afternoon to do my research, because I usually I'm usually unprepared. But I of course, I saw you on YouTube. I only saw 3 videos of you on YouTube. I must completely be off, because I know you have a podcast and a website, but I just found out really late. And I said, guys, I'm going to be fucking stuck tonight, because I couldn't do it. I didn't have the time to do it.
I'm the easiest person to interview, because we could talk about anything. We could talk about how I get pissed off at comic creators. We could talk about comic book investing. We could talk about just pop culture. I do
want to talk about comic book investing, because that's a big part of what you do, right? I don't think we've really touched on that too much. So, you and I don't know if John's really much on there, but sometimes you and I share the same thoughts as some of the people that are posting on social media about books and things. And I'm a fucking spaz, dude. I'm all over the place. Like, we gotta realize 98% of what I post on there is just horseshit. It's just me like half awake fucking around. But like, I guess my first question. Let's talk about investing a little bit. So, what is the first and most common mistake that you see investors making? Let's go with that. Let's run with that.
What do you mean? I'm going to clarify because
like a common mistake. Like first thing,
I can only talk about comic book investing.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, comic book investing.
So
like something
right
off the bat.
I'll talk about the rules. How does that sound? Because this is the mistake.
Real quick though, this is a good. I want to jump in and say I do have to bounce. I don't want to cut you off in the middle of a conversation here.
Of course you do, but that's not the point.
I did not want to miss this show because, like I said, you were one of the first guys that gave us a chance.
I really don't care if you bounce or not. It's all good. If you disappeared in the middle of it, you would be in Raven Gregory's territory, and I like Raven.
John's in a hula skirt drinking margaritas up on the coast of Maine, so he needs to go.
I'll go through the sort of the rules and common mistakes. So rule number 1 for me is that if you have debt, you can't do this the way you want to do it. And what I mean by that, and that's a very paraphrasing position. So if you have debt and you have $20,000 worth of student loan debt, you should not be at a con. You should not be putting money into serious books. You should not be spending any more than $100 on a comic book. Because guess what? Your greatest rate of return is going to be paying off that debt. Whether that's credit card debt, student loan debt. If you have a mortgage, that's fine. If you have $1,000 or less and you're servicing it, that's fine. If you got a lease, that's fine. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about serious debt. If you got medical debt, you got to pay off that shit, and you got to be working 5 jobs to pay it off. Now, after that, you need 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund before you even pretend to play in this. Now, this doesn't mean your local comic shop. If you buy and have a pull list of $50 worth of books and you're reading that, or you're saying, hey, I'm a little bit of a collector and just sort of taking a shotgun approach, fine. We're talking about seriously buying a book that you're looking for an X rate of return on. That's what we're talking about. So if you say, hey, I got some student loan debt, I make $200,000 a year, but I'm a doctor and I'm buying $150 worth of comic books every single month, that's not what we're talking about. You're not in that category. If you say I'm a doctor making $200,000 a year as a resident, or making $600,000, but I got $150,000 of student loan debt, I'm buying a Hulk 181 for $40,000, we got a problem. So that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is actually doing your homework and research, because guess what? This is a different sector than stocks, real estate, Bitcoin, crypto, bonds, index funds. It's completely different than anything else you know. It's different from baseball cards, Pokemon cards. It's different from any other type of thing, and you need to know a bunch of shit about it. And so if you're saying I'm coming in here because a bunch of people are making money and you don't know jack shit about it, great. Do your homework before you even go into a comic shop and start pretending. So that's 3. 4 is you need to know you're investing in an alternative asset and what that means exactly. What that means is that this can go completely bottom up. It can go the other way too. There's no assurances. So you put your money in a CD, there's a federal insurance up to $250,000. You put $250,000 into a comic book, there's no federal insurance for that. So you need to understand that there is no insurance for this, and it is the wild fucking West. And until you understand that, and you need to know what your risk tolerance is, because if your risk tolerance is not high, you should not be playing in this sector. So that's sort of the 4 main rules, and then you also need to be prepared to lose everything. You need to understand how your exit strategy works. If you don't know your fucking exit strategy before, where you could sell, where you can exit, you got to know. You also got to know what liquid is, what isn't liquid. And I also say, hey, look, I mean, the way I operate is I have a lot of investments. This is just another investment. This isn't my main investment. And so you need to understand that too, of your priorities in that sector. And so there's a lot of rules, but those are sort of the 5-6 rules that I go by. And I think that's the common mistake people make. And I also think people don't know their history with comics. And I'm not talking, hey, you need to know when Bruce Wayne's parents, the origin of Bruce Wayne. No, you don't need to know that origin. You need to understand what happened in the fucking 90s.
Yeah,
all right.
There was a big bubble in the 90s, man. That was crazy. Right? It was there for that. So.
according to experience, what would be your financial threshold when it comes to financing, let's say, 24 pages comic book? And I say, what would be too much risking?
So buying a mainstream book or doing an indie project?
An indie project, yeah.
So
you have to pay for everything, like printing, the artist.
So you're taking a non crowdfunding approach, right?
Yeah.
So
like in order, you have to set a goal, Kickstarter.
Honestly, I mean, as far as a Kickstarter, I mean, I think $6,000. Honestly, it leaves enough room to get it done. I think you have. I mean, I haven't printed anything in a while, and I haven't really touched this sector, so I might be a little bit off. But I think $6,000 leaves a lot of room. It gives you enough cushion that shit goes south. Gives you the ability to almost pick up a cheap variant from somebody, offers something else. Because I have a pretty good idea what people charge. I actually have a pretty good list of it, and I know enough people that. But again, I've never run this. I know what people charge on variants just because I know printing costs. I know what a book, if I was to pick up a book by Scout with certain artists, it would cost me $5.55 landed per book on it. And I understand what I would have to do if I wanted to wholesale that book out. And make a little bit of money and break even. And I understand all that just because that's just basic business. But I think $6,000 honestly is a really good number. I think setting your goal though is $3,000 because if I'm to run a Kickstarter, I think the lower your goal is, the easier it is to handle it. And I get running a podcast to run my show the way I want to run my show. It's going to run me about $750 a year, which isn't a lot of money. My Kickstarter goal, if I was to run for season 3, would be $500. Because I can find $250 anywhere.
And then those algorithms pick up the fact that you're funded too, right? So they love that because they're making money. So they're pushing you because they're in the green right at that point. So that's another thing too. We talked to Rusty Gilligan, who was talking about that. He's like, dude, put your goal at like $50, right? Just so it funds out, right? Because then you're automatically going to be kicked up into the ranks, right? It'll say, oh, geez, these guys are 1,700% funded.
If you look at Kickstarter, and then we'll come back to comic book investing because that's my favorite topic to talk about. There's Kickstarters that are asking for funding that are asking for $5,000.
20,000? I've seen 20,000, right? I mean,
I'm looking at myself and I'm saying, Mom, if I ask for $500, fucking 4 hours. Because guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to hit up every single one of my friends who are red fucking honest. I need a favor, man. I need a favor. If you can't do it, let me know. It's nothing personal. You're always welcome on my show, but I need a solid. Tweet it the fuck out. I'm not asking for your money. If you want to make me a cameo for free, do it, man. But I don't need you to spend money. I just know that you have a big enough following and that people are going to flock to this and be like, yo, man, I'm in. I'm in because I'll use somebody, AG. This is the guy I was talking about, I sponsored. And then when I was speaking to his fiance, because I interviewed her, he's like, oh, yeah, I remember playing with your logo. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. But it was the idea that what wound up happening is that, and me and her were speaking, and she said, oh, yeah, and I explained to her my entire thing. I funded your boyfriend because I like your boyfriend as a wrestler. He was on my show, and I also wanted to just buy goodwill. I didn't view it as a sponsorship position, but I think that, that's something that people also don't understand is that the lower your goal is, $500, if you know that you're going to do $3,000 or $4,000 and your costs are only $2,000, put it at 500 and see what the fuck happens. Because once something is funded, I'll tell a little thing about me. I am more likely to pick up somebody's Kickstarter if it's already funded or it's 90% funded and there's 20 days to go. I am very hesitant to back a Kickstarter if there's 15 days left and it's only 10% funded.
Oh yeah, there's got to be a reason, right? Either they're not working the campaign or the content is crap.
It's not that for me. What it is for me is that when I was backing a lot of Kickstarters, I have an allocated amount of money, right? Every single month. So I might have a $70 Kickstarter fund. Once I back your fucking project, whether it's funded or not, that's $70, or let's say I backed it was $20, it's gone in my accounting. So if your project is not successful, I get my money back. But in my accounting, that money is gone because I'm on a budget. Okay, so every dollar in my budget has an assignment. It has a mission to accomplish. If its mission is for the Kickstarter, great. I'm happy. My $20 said, we're going to go conquer your Kickstarter today. And then it goes out there, I get my book, and we're all happy. The problem is that if your Kickstarter doesn't go, my soldiers come back home, a little beat up, not too worried for the wear, but that money doesn't get redistributed for the next month. It's just another excess $20 in my bank account. But that money is already discounted for. And I was explaining this to JP Roth and Dawn Mateague, and they were a little confused on that thing. And I said, you have to understand, this is how my mind works. And my mind doesn't work, but this is how an economic mind works. When you live on a budget, you understand how things work. I have a budget, how much money I'm putting into the stock market every month. I understand what I'm doing. My money has an assignment. So if I was to back your Kickstarter and your Kickstarter failed and I put $20 into it, I didn't lose $20, but it went somewhere else. It didn't go to another Kickstarter. It's not like the next month I'm doing $90 versus $70.
It's time value of money too, right? So it's tied up for a month, to your point.
I don't even look at it like that. I look at it the fact that this money had an assignment, and now that's it. It's already spent. Whether it's utilized and spent or not, that's how I view it. And that's the thing about Kickstarter for me. Maybe I'm crazy when I say this. Maybe I'm not the rational one on this. But I like to think that that's a logical way how to think about money.
Do you think that there's more speculation happening right now than investing in the overbroad comic book market? It feels like there's a lot of speculation, in my opinion. People are snapping up every variant, right? All that type of stuff, and or because like the way I always saw it is like, we talk the parallels between investing and let's say comic book investing or trading comic books. I always figured that your new books are kind of like your micro tech stocks, right? They may pop and go huge. You get them in at it's like buying a penny stock, right? They may go huge at some point. Whereas, a classic, you get Detective Comics, whatever, I don't know, what was it, 37 Batman appear, 27? I always get mixed up. Something like that. I mean, the market that's going to move a little bit slower, so I would see that more as being like a bond.
I don't even think it moves slower. I don't even think it moves slower anymore.
Yeah, that's my point, right? There's a lot of speculation, right?
I think what's going on with certain books, I'll give an example. So right now, there are certain books. I just sold a Spider-Man 601. I bought mine at 50. I sold it for 140. I have a 9.6 graded. That's a personal book, but I sold mine for 140. Pretty good rate of return. If you buy something for $50, and then you pretty much move it out for 140, it's not bad. I made a lot of money on it. And then I just sold a Clayton Crane, early Clayton Crane. For 140 as well. I paid $25 for it. I will never see that book again. No question about it. It's 1,000 print run. I get it. So I think what's happening now is that there's a few things. I think a lot of people in the last 20 months, and I've received some unemployment. I'm not going to pretend here. So I know firsthand, a lot of people had a lot of money in the last 20 months.
Oh yeah.
And guess what? If you got that 1,200, I got my 1,200. I mean, I got another 600. I'm not going to pretend. I mean, I invested some of it in the stock market. I bought some comic books in it. I turned those comic books into better positions. But if you had an extra $1,800 and you're looking at an X-Men, giant X-Men, well, congratulations. A giant X-Men is $2,000. You could have got one for $1,600 if you really wanted it. My point is that that's what drove up a lot of speculation in the last 20 months. So a lot of people had money. And I have a feeling we're going to see when money dries up. And now people have less money. Well, people are hungry. People are poor. People don't have anything. I mean, I got a lot of free cash right now. I legitimately can tap a boatload where I don't have an emergency fund. I have a war chest. If I really wanted to, I could buy people's collections out for probably 40 cents on the dollar. And I think it's coming. I really do. And
I think you're right. I think you're right.
I don't know if it's, and then the Biden 1099-K American Rescue Act. I mean, you could be Democrat, you could be Republican. It doesn't matter, because that 1099-K, for those who don't know, the American Rescue Act has a provision that basically said, hey, if you're selling on eBay, you get a 1099-K starting at $600 regardless of sale on eBay. So in January, February, and March of this year, I was doing $700 every single month on eBay. For me to do $600 when I'm selling $100 books on eBay is pennies. No, not pennies. It's seconds, right? All it takes is about 6 books for me to sell $600. Now, a 1099-K doesn't mean you're going to be in a different tax bracket. If you're making $36,000 and you sell $2,000 more worth of money, you might be in the same tax bracket. That's not what that means. What it means is your account is going to charge you an extra $100 to figure it out. Now, what the real point of the 1099-K, and I'm speculating, and the reason why I bring this up is because I think it was against the guy who was selling a $15,000 Rolex, because before it was $20,000 or 200 sales on eBay. I think they're trying to go after the person who had a back office to avoid taxes, and they hit the little guy up. I'm a little guy on eBay. Now, I'm growing my eBay business. I could list $27,000 worth of shit every month on eBay. 270 sales. That's a lot for not having to pay eBay a goddamn cent on anything that I don't sell. I don't have a store on eBay. I could list 90 items. I could list 270 items for $27,000 worth of shit up on eBay. But I also think now what we're going to start seeing is real value coming out. So Ultimate Fallout 4 is a real value book. Okay, Spider-Man 601 is a real value book. But also what I deal with is I deal with a lot of variants that have 350 print runs, 250 print runs. I deal with a lot of Zenescope books. Reason why is they're limited. I'm interested in limited. I just bought today a Boom Studio WWE book that's 250 print run. The reason why I buy a 250 print run is there's only 250 of those out there. I'm not interested in buying a book that has 10,000 copies printed.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the manufacturer scarcity, it's a good thing, right? That's saved a lot of these markets, especially you see that more in baseball cards, right? 1 of 25, 1 of 1, right? And those things go for bucks. I just wonder what the longevity is on a lot of that stuff, because if everything's 1 of 1, and everything's 1 of 1, right? So I mean, it's like
so what I think where things are going is that I think when you have a 250 print run, I think that makes sense. I think a 100 print run makes sense. I think that, with comics, I don't think there's usually 1s of 1s beyond commissions. I think that though what's going on right now, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the artists that nobody fucking knows their early work. Clayton Crane book. It's a $25 book. There's 1,000 printed. Reason why that book is really expensive, it's an early Clayton Crane when nobody knew who the fuck he was, and he's brand new in the industry. So I sold a bunch of early Clayton Cranes for good money because it's the early work. It's the Campbell effect. J. Scott Campbell doesn't carry the same weight as a 601 Spider-Man, does not carry the same weight as a new J. Scott Campbell coming off the rack tomorrow. It doesn't.
How long are you sitting on something like that? Like if you pick that up, is it weeks?
A 601, I think I sat on for like 2 years.
Okay.
I picked up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. It's like a high flip over. Right? I think people want that immediate gratification, right? They want to go buy a book like that today, sell it this weekend, and get out, right? So that's like.
I think some people say, hey, I want like a 3 to 6 month return. I bought mine in 2019, and I knew it was a hot book. I already had a 9.6 in it. A 9.6 is like a 200 plus book, CGC'd. And so I understand that some of this stuff is the long plays, short plays. I just picked up some Zenescope stuff. I'm going to probably pick up another book tomorrow. But my Zenescope order is going to be relatively cheap, and I'm probably going to flip that book really quickly. I'm looking at maybe 45, 25 turned into 45. I'll make about $7 to $8 on the deal. But guess what? That's $8 of profit. It's not $8 of anything, and then I'll kick forward to 25, and it'll pay for some of the order, and it's going to be great. And some of the stuff in the pack is going to be nice, and hopefully I'll sort of win and get an extra book out of it, and I'll just piece it out. But with a Zenescope book, there's been books that I've waited on 5 years, where I bought a $20 book and I sold it for $125 years later, But obviously, I mean, that's a 43% annualization rate. How the fuck do you do that in the stock market 5 years in a row? I mean, turning $20 into a 120 position is a $43 annualization rate. So Zenescope for me is a very much a 3 to 5 year play where I could hold on to a book for 3 to 5 years. And like I was explaining to my mom, I'm saying, hey, this hasn't matured yet. It's almost like a savings bond, right?
Right.
And so I think when you go into this, you need to know what the fuck you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, and I'm coming out with a product that doesn't go into this particularly, but it gives a lot of basics. It gives the idea of how to research, gives the idea of exit strategies, gives the idea of what the fuck CGC is. That's a fucking minefield. What you should and shouldn't get CGC'd, holy fucking shit. How many stupid fucking CGC books have you seen?
Right. Yeah. Do you get those? Do you send them out to be graded, or you're buying them pre-graded, or both? What's your strategy on that?
Oh, right now I'm selling raw. Raw is fucking killing it.
I like raw. I like to look at the book. I like the smell. I'm a golden age guy. I think we shared with this before. Like I like silver age, horror, golden age horror. I like
my solution is that once it becomes raw, so I have a book that's 150 print run Zenescope book that came out of a Zen box, which is a very exclusive thing. It's a 9.6. That book is hard to fucking sell because the people who want that book want it at a 9.8. Now, I'm selling it for like $50 lower than the 9.8. Nobody's fucking biting and hasn't bited for it for years. Now, I bought that book at $36. I bought a 150 Zenescope print book at $36 CGC'd. That's a low. That's undervalued tremendously.
It almost cost you that to get it graded, right? So
I mean, we're talking about the book was $100 in a Zen box alone with about 2 other books. So let's put that book at $30 just to be reasonable here. Then it's a wraparound of New York Comic Con, which has to add a little bit of value to it because it's obviously a very prominent con of the Javits Center. You basically have Wilma and Velma. I think that's the Flintstones, right? So I think that it's done by Elias Chazoudis, who's a great artist. It's a wraparound, and then it's graded as a 9.6. So you got, conversely, you probably got $80 if we were to put a fair value into it. And I bought mine for $36, graded as a 9.6. I'm looking at $100 on it. It's a hard.
Where are you picking stuff up like that? Is that a private sale?
Just on eBay. Nobody's
just grabbing somebody that doesn't know what the hell they're
doing.
I
think somebody. It was a bid, and I think somebody was just running with the wolves.
Yeah, $9.99, no reserve, 7-day, let it fly, right? Hopefully somebody shows up.
And they were hoping that maybe $50-$60. Right. Because they were cutting their losses, and look, I picked up books. I picked up a Rob something Galini, I think, or Golini, who does a lot of stuff for Boom Studios, and a Naka something who did a cover for Tate's John Cena book, and I picked that book up for $15. It's a 9.6, signed by both of them. $15 for a CGC book. So just to put a reasonable price on that, to get a CGC was $30, and then the book itself was $6. Tate's probably sold it for $10. We're talking about a $40 value with not counting the signatures, $15.
What's your opinion on people taking like the free comic book day books and then selling them? I feel it's a little dirty, right? I don't know, maybe, but I mean, I could see if they're 3 to 5 years old, right? You have that time of curating this thing and taking care of it. I get that, but this last weekend. I've seen things from last weekend that are already up, and they're what, I don't know, $6-10 a piece. I don't know, man. So, it feels a little dirty to me. But
so I picked up free comic book day stuff, and the shop charged me 30 cents per book, but they're also shipping it to me, and that to me doesn't seem as dirty. It should be technically free, but right. I'm okay with that because at a certain point it's 30 cents per book. That's not
like $10. I got a good example. I got Enter the House of Slaughter. I'm a big Something's Killing the Children fan. I love James Tynion. But I've seen, people are doing like a pack, right? They're doing like almost like a retail pack, like 10 of them, right?
Yeah. I've seen
$59. Yeah, $59 or something. It's like, man, it's a little dirty. I don't know. Like, I didn't go to my local comic shop. I went there Wednesday. I didn't go there with the intent to like, raid the shelves. I just bought. I didn't buy it. I took what I liked, and my daughter took what she liked, and I think that was really what it was. Is because I like kid literacy and getting kids to read, and so I think it's a great thing, and that it's really helped my kids learn to read, just getting into comics.
Me and my mom went to Free Comic Book Day. She got 3 that she wanted. She gave me her 2 that she wanted. I got the 5 I wanted, and that was the end of it. Now I was hemming and hawing with stuff, but I was like super excited for the Korra book, for instance, because I'm a big Avatar: Last Airbender fan. And I was interested in We Live and all that stuff. And I wasn't looking to make money on this shit. But I was like, hey, I know certain books are going to be valuable. I know that, the core book's probably going to be worth $10 in 2-3 years. And maybe I'll sell it, maybe I won't. And then when I ordered online, I got 3 of the Korra book because I just know Korra is big. And I know Avatar is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So obviously I have an intent at some point to move and sell shit. And I'm cool with that at a certain point, but I think it's a problem, and I think that I think this has always existed. I just think we're just seeing a fuck ton of it more now.
Yeah, everybody thinks they're going to get rich with doing books, right? I think that's what we're seeing. Is there's, to your point earlier on, there's a lot of people that have no clue what they're doing, which is good for your podcast, right? So that's good. I think they can gain value from that, and we see it online.
It's good for my class. It's good for my class, is what it's good for.
Right. Yeah. Everyone wants to get rich quick scheme.
It's also what it is.
I do.
Hey, look, we all want to be wealthy. If somebody said, "Hey, man, all you gotta do is A, B, C, and D, and you'll be a millionaire in a week," we'd all jump at it. And if it was true, we'd all be great. I don't think anybody here is pretending that becoming wealthy is very, very complicated. It's hard. Nobody in their right mind has become wealthy by being a moron.
Right.
Unless
they inherit the money, right? So sometimes you can inherit, right? So.
Yeah, as long as we pay our bills and we still can get things up, it's all right.
But I think where it gets complicated is that also all these people say, "Oh man, all these people are making money, and I want to make money too." And look, I think shops have been struggling, and I think that what it is. They're like, hey, we'll sell a 10-pack. We got all these books, and if we can make $50 here, and then also there's massive speculation, and it's just like, I get it. I really do, because I understand what's going on. And look, I'm a speculator. I get it. But at the same time, I just think that it defeats the entire fucking purpose of all of this shit.
Who do you think the buyer is that's picking up like a 9.8 giant size X-Men #1 for $72,000 or whatever? Is that somebody that's going to sit on that thing? I mean, that would be a hard book to flip, in my opinion, because I would figure the audience at that price point has got to be pretty limited.
I think the person picking that up is maybe somebody who says, hey, I'm looking for an alternative investment, and maybe they're in their 50s, they have a decent job, and they say, look, I'm not liking the returns on the stock market, and I have 15 years, and that they're saying this is an annualization rate of X. So I don't know, and obviously, Rodrigo, I don't know if you looked at my other stuff that I was doing, but I did an entire prospectus on Hulk 181, dating back to 1993 with a 9.8 all the way up, according to Otis. Now, Otis had to release a statement, because what Otis does, for those who are watching or rewatching or checking it out, is that they basically buy something and then they break it up into shares. So that if they bought a $20,000 item, they might break it into $100 shares, so you can own a piece of that. And then let's say they sell that thing that they bought, painting, shoes, comics, baseball cards, for $30,000, your shares go up accordingly. So they bought a 9.8 Hulk 181. I think they paid $34,000 for it. They broke it up into shares. Now, I'm not exactly sure the share price they broke it up into. They were broken into like $60 shares, $100 shares, $200 shares. It doesn't really matter at this point what they broke it up into, but they explained in their prospectus that if you bought it, it was a $300 book in 1993 in a 9.8, and then from 1993 to about 2006 it rose, and then it started falling, and then it rose again back in 2012, 13, and then 2015 to 2018 it was like below 9,000. So basically, In 2006, it was like 12,000. Then it fell to like 8,000 for 4 or 5 years. But then it rose rapidly up to 34,000. And then it rose after they bought it like $2,000. But guess what? If you go through an annualization rate, that's a 3.7% rate of return every fucking year on the book is its annualization growth rate. Because guess what? When you buy a book and then it rose to 18,000 and the next year drops, in the next 3 years drops to 8,000, it's not a great fucking investment. It's not. So I think what people are looking for when they buy $72,000 books, they're saying, look, I know this book might only produce 5%, but there's going to be great years when it produces 35%. And I think they're saying, hey, I might have money in the stock market, or fuck this. This is a better rate of return.
Yeah.
Or they might have money to burn.
Yeah, and it's going to be there forever.
It's one of those two things is that it
holds their value. That was kind of my point earlier, right? Is like a title like that, right? It's kind of, I always like I use the analogy, kind of like a bond, right? It'll hold its value. I mean, how many 9.8 giant size X-Men ones are out there, right? Probably not many.
And sometimes you do something that keeps dormant for 10, 20, 50 years if you're very unlucky. And then people start to discover, oh my God, this is fantastic, this is great. And then all of a sudden you're a hit.
I think it's also the idea that the way comics go now is that you have a Hulk 181. So it rises, it falls harsh. Rises, it falls harsh. Rises, fall harsh. But every time it rises, it falls. So it falls the same harshness. But if you rose up from 300 to 15,000, but then you have to recede back down 60%, well, you had such gains that, you're not falling down to 300 back in. You're falling down to 9,000, and then it rises up, but then it falls down to 12, and then it rises back up. And I think that, that's what's going on, is that I think people are saying, okay, that's where it's going. But also I think, it's just understanding the cycle of it. And it's also always liquid. That's the thing. It's a very liquid asset because you could sell it at a loss, but it's still liquid. It's going to sell. An X-Men Giant is going to sell. An X-Men 1 Giant is going to sell. A Hulk 181 is always going to sell in a 9.8. Now, you might not like the price of it, but it's always going to sell.
What are some books that you would not touch with like a 100-foot pole that you absolutely hate? That you see, maybe you see people buying them and you're like, dude, don't get that.
I wouldn't touch a Hulk 181. I wouldn't touch a Giant X-Men 1.
Or just maybe new titles too, right? Is there something you see common mistakes that people are chasing? Don't touch that book. Right?
I would not touch Stray Dogs.
Why's that?
Stray Dogs. The reason why is that it's so fucking hot that I don't think we're going to be talking about it in 5 years.
It's that speculation market again, right?
Yeah, I just think that we're not going to be talking about it in 5 years. I think that there's even killing the children. I don't think, and it could be, I've read parts of it. I've enjoyed it, but I just don't think it's going to last the tail of time. I think
there's that speculation for the Netflix films too. That was going to be my other question too. Is you see the movie speculation, right? Like, oh, we got to get Werewolf by Night, because Moon Knight's going to have a movie and it's going to just double in price because the movie's coming out, and all these different things. It's always the movie speculation is always the big thing too. So
look, I just sold a bunch of Carnage shit, and I knew I got a 20 to 25% premium. I sold a bunch of Carnage shit in June. And then it dropped, and now it's spiking back up, and I sold it again. So what I did, which is crazy, is that I sold the book, I bought it back when it fell, and then I resold it again for a higher price within 3 months.
People think that with investments, right, that you can't get back in. I always say it's like breaking up with a girl. You can always get back together, right? So just because you got rid of them, right, maybe they change their crazy ways, and, they're on the uptick, right? You guys can get back together. So go back in and get that thing. Why not, So what?
So I found a way how to buy the book for what I paid for it, which is $25,000, and it sold for $52,000. So I sold the first one for $65,000, sold the second one for $52,000. But guess what? I turned a $50 investment into $107 before fees.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
So I doubled my money essentially very, very, very quickly. And it's not a great book. And it's a cool looking book. Don't get me wrong. It's a great variant, but I really don't. I mean, I did very well on it.
It's not something you need in your collection, right? So not something you need to...
You know, is in a perfect world, it would have been great to have in my collection. But I'm smart enough to know that profit margin. So the $50 got redeployed into something new that I think will do very well. And then the profit margin bought some other shit because it got moved into the stock market, into a dividend producing asset, which is also producing money. So now I have more assets working for me in a very nice way.
What do you own that you would never sell? Is there anything in the Andrew vault that's not for sale?
So I have some commission pieces that are personal. That ran me like $275 on a commission. That maybe I'll sell because I'm building out a 5 set of it in a similar style. So at some point I'll probably sell the set, but it'll have to be a very good price for that. And I'm looking at maybe like $2,500 for a 5-piece CGC 9.8 commission set. But maybe $3,000 would do it, probably more likely. But I have a Saga 1 in a 9.6 signed by Brian Cable 1 and Fiona Staples, CBCS. I have some Alexa Blisses, and she's just phenomenal. And that stuff doesn't pop up. I have a Women's Revolution San Diego Comic-Con book, which is a very, very rare book. That book's story, just to give the brief, is that you had to buy the book, you were entered into a raffle, and then you had Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley, and the Bella Twins signing it, sponsored by Mattel for free. But you had to be entered into a raffle to, I think, either buy the book and then get it signed, or you had to buy the book and then get entered into the raffle. And those 6 women were all signing at the same time. And that's what makes that book extremely rare, is that it can be replicated, but it is beyond difficult. Because you get that book raw for $30. It's not the book itself, it's the signatures on that book and all of them at the same time. Because you could get that book, and CGC was there. And that's the other thing, too, is that there are books, and people are asking about $750 for it ungraded, signed by all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what... Yeah.
Yeah, since you mentioned Mattel, I know you're into collectibles. And what do you think about this move, like some companies are making, into making figures instead of making comics? You know, there's a big example. The guy from Image, what's his name? My memory is
Todd
shit.
McFarlane.
McFarlane, he went really, really hard on it, and I love his job. I think he makes figures better than comics, because I don't really like his style, but the figures are fantastic and so fucking expensive, you know. But I was recently watching the documentary about He-Man, and I found out that if there were no Mattel, there wouldn't be the series, He-Man series, the 80s series. And now they are doing a kind of reboot on it. And yeah, he's on. Yeah, but the documentary is great.
I think he's still listening. I think he's grabbing something to look at something.
Yeah, probably. He went to have a pee. I'm actually going to do that.
It happens. It's okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit.
No, it's really interesting conversation, because you know, like to Andrew's point, like people got, I don't know if you saw the news, like, the Americans, Rogerio got stimulus money, right? We just got like free money, right? If you had kids, you got extra money, and all this stuff. So a lot of people they were kind of like, I would say middle class, right? They didn't necessarily need the money. So they said, well, hell with it. I got this extra cash. I'm going to go ahead and buy this stuff that I don't normally buy. I finally have, an extra $2,000 that I wasn't expecting. So I'm going to go buy this, book or so that I've always wanted. And I think some people are, dabbling. They're sitting at home, right? They're locked down, whatever. They're bored. like, well, I'll just start cleaning out my closet, I'll sell stuff on eBay, right? So I saw a huge influx of just stuff coming online, right, for sale. People were, I was joking, I said, barns and basements and attics and closets have never been as clean in the history of man because we're home.
Sorry about that. I had a rain this font. My bad.
No worries.
That's what we figured. That happens. That's okay. No,
I wanted to do it very, very politely. So
no, it's perfect. No worries. I
was still listening.
I got you. No, I got a crazy bladder. I was on, I said in shows before, I was in a rock band and we just like, we toured the country and it'd be 6 or 7 hours in the van nonstop. Like, we're not stopping. And so we got to get there, right? So my bladder is probably like blown up to the size of a football from those days.
But I was still listening, and I agree. I agree with the fact that there was
so much product, man. There was so much product coming online. You're like, holy shit. Like,
so this is what I was saying in January, February, and March.
Yeah.
I was selling $700 every single month, and I was having maybe 50 listings, and I was selling not great shit, not bad shit. Now I'm selling the good shit, and let me explain on eBay. This shit's off the chart. People will spend money. Like, I was a little like somebody. I listed my 601 Spider-Man for $150. Somebody offered me $140, and they're like, "Yo, I'm in." And then they're like, "Hey, what else you got?" Like, I've had positions where I've listed a $30 book in the middle of COVID, and people are like, "Yo, man, you got everything. Just what can you do for me?" And I'm the type of seller on eBay where I combine shipping up to about 10 books. So I charge $10 for 10 books. I turned a $30 sale into $350, and I lost $5 on the shipping. But guess what? I turned a $30 sale into $350, and Zenoscope refers to me, and whenever I'm on a live stream, yo, this is the expert. They point to me to justify their claims because that's who I am, and they sell to me, and I'm friends with Jason, who's sort of their head of sales. I know Ralph very well. Dave Franchini's been on, but like, I don't fuck around with this shit, and like, I make there's a lot of money in this shit, and guess what? What I think's about to happen? I'm entering the wholesale game, which is getting really interesting, which soon enough, maybe I'll be wholesaling your books out. But the idea is that there's real money in this shit, and people will spend money on the good shit.
Yeah, I think what's happening too, it happens with every generation, is you get, I'll be 43 a month and a half. So, we're not kids anymore, right? We got through all the college shit, all that debt, like, got our house, you get set up, right? And what does it say? In like 20s, you're setting up your shop, 30s, you're paying off from setting up your shop, and then 40s, you get extra scratch, right? So you're seeing a lot of people in their 40s too want to relive their youth, right?
What's the hottest thing for my generation right now?
Oh, geez, I would say probably. This is me guessing, man.
What era? What era? I'm 28. What era is the hottest thing right now?
Probably early 2000s, if I had to guess.
So right now, what's going on is that a lot of people in my generation are coming into money, and they're into the 90s shit.
See, that's my stuff too, right? But more 80s too, right? Like, 80s stuff was when I was coming of age, kind of thing. Like late 80s. Of course, we lived through that revolution of image comics hitting. Right, all that type of stuff. So, but that stuff is just flooded everywhere.
So for me, I right now have maybe a few 80s books. My favorite book in my collection is an odd one, but it's a great one. It's at DC Presents number 26. I love the Teen Titans.
Yeah, nice.
That is my fucking jam.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you follow that trend, right? So you say, okay, in the 2030s, maybe it is the 2000s, right? And then 2040s, maybe it's the 2010s, right? So it always seems that way. But here's something that happens. I talk about this. My background was automotive, right? I was in the car industry for 24 years. There's nobody. Maybe I'm just speaking in generalities. I could be talking shit, but I don't see anybody who's 28 having any interest in a 1917 Model A or Model T Ford. I don't see any interest in that, right? It's always some old dude driving that thing, right? Like, they don't give a twist of shit. So they need to sell that thing now while their other 70-year-old generation still around. I don't see anybody being interested in that.
What I think is happening, though, is that when you have something like DC Presents number 26, which is the first appearance of Raven, Cyborg, and Starfire, that book is always going to be hot. because guess what? That's the first appearance of those characters.
Right. Sure.
So I understand the wedding of Nightwing and Starfire. Nobody gives a shit about that comic.
Right.
But if you just introduce Cyborg, Raven, and Starfire, and they're relevant, like in Titan Academy, for instance, they're still relevant today. Everybody loves Starfire. I had Tara Strong sign my Raven, my Orange Raven. And that shit, like, I've had offers on Instagram where I'm like, no, thank you. Because I love it. It's a cool pop. It's a Toys R Us pop.
My brother had a cat named Starfire. So they go, right, so.
But like, I love the Teen Titans. Like for me, I spent $50 on a pretty good, interesting set from, I think, all the way. I mean, I spent money on a when Nightwing, when Robin becomes Nightwing. I spent like $50 on that book, and I want to get it graded. But I love it. And then also I have a Scott Lobdell story. I love Scott. Scott's great. So I'm at this small con, and I'm flirting with his niece, of all things, at a table. I brought him all this old shit, like Generation X, signing for free, small con. He looks great. And I'm like, yo, man, I love your work, man. I love your Teen Titans stuff. So now what's going on is that he's at his table, and then he just starts talking, and he knows my dad's there, and we're talking, and we're having a great time. Like, hey, man, like, I'm expecting having to pay. I got no problem paying a creator. I'm like, yo, I get it. It doesn't bother me. So I'm bringing him the good shit, right? So I'm bringing him like awesome like black and white variants and like a foil cover of Generation X. Now you got to understand, Generation X as a foil cover is like a $3 book, but he hasn't seen this shit in forever. And then he starts realizing I got all these old books, and I'm not getting anything graded. And then what he does is that he gifts me a book of the new 52 Teen Titans. He's like, don't stop writing, Andrew. On the book cover, and then he signs one for my dad of another book, and he's just giving it away, a book that he would normally sell for like $15. And then he says like, yeah, man, I'll sit down for an interview. Let's do it. And so this is what I mean. We spoke about assholeness. When people are doing well economically, or they have had a great run, they don't act like assholes.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm very giving. It's crazy. I had somebody say, hey, can I ask you for us about comics? I'm like, yeah, call me. Here's my number. Let me know when you want to call me. And nobody ever fucking calls me when I give them my number. Nobody does. And I'm like, I just put up in a Facebook group. I said, hey, somebody asked for my help. I said, here's my number. Call me. Nobody does.
Right.
It goes to the point where when you give people your number, nobody calls your number.
You know, that's funny because like every time your phone rings, like you think that something bad happens because nobody does it anymore.
I got a phone call today from California. Like, what the fuck? Who in the fuck is calling me from California at 8:00 at night? Like, and then it's 5:00 for them. Turns out I ordered free comic book day stuff from them. They were charging me 30 cents a book, which I understand because they're just passing the cost on to me. I don't care. It was $22. It was $8 shipping. I got what I wanted. I don't give a fuck because I just want to get my shit so I can put it up on Instagram. So now they're calling me, hey, yo, we just want to make sure we're sending it to the right place. I'm like, oh my God, guys, like, this is awesome. And then the sales guy in me said, hey, I run this show. Do you want to come on? Like that's my first reaction. They're like, yeah, I'll answer this. Why the fuck not? Who There's certain people who won't answer because my phone screens now, which is nice. But it's this idea that nobody fucking calls my phone anymore. I'm like, yeah, call me. Let's figure this shit out.
No, people don't call. They text, right? Or email, right?
Nobody wants
to talk.
I'll tell the story about my sponsorship. I shoot out an email to my sponsor. I'm like, hey, why don't we have a phone call? Guess what? That sponsorship got done because we had a phone call. We didn't have an email discussion. We had a phone call. The deal that should have been done was done through email. The person said, I'm interested, never got back to me. I said, yeah, I'm in, man. Let me know when you want to start. Never got back to me in an email. Person who I phone called up, and I thought I fucked it up. I'm not going to pretend. Thought it went really bad. Turns out the deal's going through. Phone calls matter.
There's so much benefit. Yeah, to your point, like with the inflection of voices, right? And you could post something on social media. It's like, no, man, I was joking. Like if you saw me in person, I'm laughing as I'm telling this. Like, and you lose that, right? And this is even better because you can get the body gestures and the facial expressions, right? So there's something. So
I just called up and it was amazing. I just went and I said, hey, I thought it went horrible. And I never have sold in my life, but apparently on eBay, I ask a very simple question: what else can I get for you? Sounds like a stupid question. Guess what? I have a physical disability. I would be a phenomenal waiter. Because the second you start asking, what else can I get for you that's going to make you happy? Because I'm in the business of making people happy. I'm not in the business. When I'm an interviewer, if I'm an investigator interviewer, I'm in the business of getting to the truth. When I'm interviewing, I'm in the business of making you looking good, right? When I'm a guest, my goal is to make you look good. Now, I was on this Zenescope thing. I was going after David Wohl. David Wohl has written for Aspen. He's Zenescope's editor-in-chief. The only reason why I was going after him saying, oh, I think we should vote David Wohl off, because you're basically playing 7-up with the ability of a healer and a hunter who was investigating to figure out who was the killer, essentially, in Zenescope. It's a social delusion game. The only reason why I was going after David Wolf, I've never met David Wolf, but I know David Wolf is funny, and I knew he could take it, and I was trying to be comedic with him, and he was being comedic back to me. He wasn't taking it personal. I wasn't going to go after another guest. And that's saying, I want to vote David off. We all know it's David Wolf. But the idea is that, well, I don't know what the fun I was making. This is really bad. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you're selling, it's so important. Voice and facial expressions matter. And when people ask me for advice, whenever I give somebody my number out, they don't fucking call.
Well,
and I don't get
of a sale is they're buying you. It's a relationship, right? So
yeah.
I
don't understand when I say, hey, man, here's my number. Call me when you want to talk. I'm down. If I'm in the middle of getting something, cool, I'll call you. Like if I'm in the middle of Target, I'll fucking take a phone call. I got no problem.
Right.
I've done it before. Because what I find is that when I offer, say, hey, cool, let's talk. Great. Nobody fucking calls me.
It's interesting to think that there's a generation that's coming on, you know, and they actually probably have more time communicating with people via text than they do verbally. And I'm not even talking on the phone. I'm talking about talking with their peers, their mom and dad, like all of that stuff. And it's really kind of mind-blowing. It's a new frontier. Like, this is new for humans to communicate the way that we're communicating now. It's a whole different game. It's weird.
But I actually think that's despisable, you know, just doing texts. But I do love the voice messaging, because voice messaging is great, because you have a chance to talk and you're not being interrupted, and you can complete sentences and thoughts and conclusions. You know, that is great, you know, because you get the inflections and everything. But just doing texts is not my thing.
I don't text my friends. I'll be like, hey guys, you want to hang out? Cool. Great. We'll meet at this bar. That's what I text my friends on. But I call my friends like twice a week. I do. Because guess what? You know, I want to hear my friend's voice. And in COVID,
right? Especially now, all this stuff. Right?
I had an incident with a friend. He took a text message. So I tend to be very sarcastic. I tend to make off-color comments all the fucking time. I mean, I was just teasing legitly a Zenescope editor, a company that legitly sells me comic books, and that very sarcastically, and then they were joking back at me in the second game they were playing, saying, oh, finally, Dave Wolf got killed. Andrew's happy. It was really funny. And I said at the very end of that interview, I said, we're never getting an interview together. And he just started laughing because clearly that means that we're probably going to do an interview at some point, me and him. But I'm drinking, guys.
I hope you are. I would expect nothing less. Yeah, right.
So I'm a lot more fun when I'm intoxicated.
Yeah, I mean that is. That's what people expect. So that's fine. Let me ask you a question that's on my mind too. Is where do you think that the larger comic book publishing companies are failing somebody like an investor like yourself?
Okay, so I think where they're failing. So I think they're failing in two realms. In investor, I'll start with that. I think they're not doing limited runs. I want limited runs. Give me 150 print run. DC Comics, give me 100 print run, right? Don't give me a convention exclusive. Say, hey, We're going to New York Comic Con. We got 300 of these books. We have 400 of these books, 500 of these books, and 600 of these books. That's where I think they're failing. I think that they're not doing limited runs, and I think ratio variants are fun. So ratio variant, for those who are interested, is for every 50 of cover A, there's a cover of C, for instance, is a ratio. But then it gets more complicated. There's a whole formula, because the ratio under that ratio, if there was 10,000 comics printed and we had a 20, 50, and 100, we would exceed the number. It's actually significantly less. It's a whole formula, because what it really is that if you have the mathematical formula is 100 over 100 plus 5 plus 10 plus 20, and then you divide it times that number, give or take. I don't have the math off the top of my head. My mathematical friends actually did the formula for my class on that. But the idea is that's the basic premise, that if you have a 1 in 10 and 10,000 covers are printed, there's less than 1,000 of those covers. And I think that DC Comics should have a 500 print run of an awesome fucking cover. Charge me $70, $80, $100 for it. No problem. 1,000 of them out there. Don't give it to stores. Fucking take the money yourselves. That's where I think they're failing. I mean, as an investor.
What do you think they're doing right? Let's go the other side of the coin.
I think they're pulling out of indie really, really smart. I think I have friends. David Nakayama. He does a lot of Marvel covers. Just did a DC cover. They're pulling out a fucking indie. And then they're getting the best of the best of the best. DC, Marvel, and Image have never had better cover artists. Ever. And I'm smart enough where I'm looking for people. I could give you a list of the top 50 artists who I would say in the next 5 years, if DC hasn't signed at least 40 of them, I don't know where they're looking. Right. I don't know where they're looking, but I could give you at least 5 people off the top of my head. Sun Kumanaki. She just did a DC sort of cover. I don't really count her. Sun Kumanaki's at the top of that list. Josh Burns, without a doubt. You have somebody like Ash Matty. Big deal. Steph Wilson.
Walked up a little bit.
Am I here? Hello?
Yep.
I don't know if Joel can hear me.
Yeah, Joe is frozen. Oh yeah, he's back.
I could move, but we're back.
Just so image is frozen there. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, I wasn't like doing a goofy face. So
no. I don't know what you missed.
No, you're right.
I don't know what you missed, because I got locked in my thoughts. I'm like the worst guest possible.
You know, one thing I
love this shit.
Yeah, that's okay. One thing I see, maybe it's just my naive perspective, but when I go to the comic shop and I'm looking at the big name titles, it seems like everything is an issue 1. I was seeing that with Spider-Man. I'm like, my God, how many Spider-Man #1 titles are they going to put out every single month? I can't possibly follow every single Spider-Man title that's coming out. The Incredible Spider-Man, the whatever adjective Spider-Man, Spider-Man's Web, Spider-Man, it's too much stuff.
So for me, what I just went to a comic shop for the first time in almost probably 14 months. I didn't pick up any new titles. I had a blast going through back issues, because it was 99 cents a back issue, and I was having a field day. I picked up a J. Scott Campbell Gen 13 Bones book.
Fuck, that's great.
It was awesome. Where you have Bones, and then you have Gen 13, Campbell and Jeff Smith on a cover. And I'm like, this is $1. And I wish I bought like 2 of them. And I'm like, this is great.
John must be watching, because he said I look snobby, or somebody did. So he must be watching.
So my point I'm trying to make is that I'm planning to go back in like 2 weeks. I had a blast. It was free comic book day. Oh man, the only problem is that the shop getting up was a little difficult because I walk on crutches. But that's not anybody's fault. I had a blast. It was the most tranquil thing I could think of. This was like better than sex and therapy. Like, it was phenomenal. It was better than weed, and it's better than drinking Oh my God, for like an hour and 45 minutes. I was just going through
Stop
backlogs.
there. Stop there. I need to go to that place. Fuck.
I mean,
if they had girls and weed and whiskey, it might have just been.
Wow, that's a fantastic combination.
Hey, how do you like
Hey.
our book selection? Have a drink, you know.
Have you seen The Big Bang, where Leonard basically trades a comic book to this really hot girl in the comic shop for her number?
No,
I have not. No, I don't watch a lot of television. I just my ADD is in, man.
I'll tell a funny story. So I have a replica Green Lantern power battery, like Sheldon. I paid good money for it with every fucking penny.
Nice.
I love it. I'm a big Green Lantern fan too. I went through a surgery. So the two things that got me through my surgery while I was bedridden for 6 weeks, essentially, on bilateral foot reconstruction, was Blackest Night and Fear Itself. Imagine reading Blackest Night next to Fear Itself and reading all of it. And I'm like, I'm going to go every freaking week to Barnes & Noble, and I'd be tearing through this shit and left and right. And I went through so much graphic novel shit. And this is why I love comics. I thoroughly enjoyed Blackest Night. Like, Blackest Night probably made me not die. It's insane. And Peter Tomasi signed something in my book at a comic signing, also at All Yeah Comic Shop. So keep on wrangling in a graphic novel. It's great. James Tillin the Fourth signed something in it in a book of mine because I went to a comic thing. And then the best story I have is with Brian Brown and Charles Soule. Beyond the wrestling stuff.
You brought up an interesting aspect to it when you said that kept you from
Pretty
dying.
much killing myself. Yeah, I'm not
really.
Gonna
Yeah. Would you share with us that time of your life, what you have been through? What was that? Someone dumped you?
No,
you lost your job.
I had bilateral foot reconstruction surgery. So I had surgery that was supposed to correct bones in my feet. Did not go well, but obviously I was recovering from the surgery. So now,
before that, you went into an accident or something.
So I have a condition, and it was supposed to correct the condition and help the condition. And so I have a genetic condition called hereditary spastic paraplegia. And so now the surgery was supposed to happen, but obviously you need time to heal. And so now I'm in a lot of pain. I spent 5 days in a hospital recovering from the surgery when it's supposed to be 3. Clearly the surgery didn't go well. We didn't know the surgery didn't exactly work. But now you're bedridden for 3 weeks, and then you got to go back. They change out the casts. They sort of take out the stitches. All sorts of shit goes on because a 6.5 hour surgery isn't a joke. And I'm not saying other people don't have bigger issues. I know people who've had 12-hour surgeries. I get it. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm now going crazy. So I'm watching things like Gundam Zeta. I'm watching a lot of anime, but guess what? I can't fucking change the fucking, DVD, and you need something to read. So I'm reading Blackest Night, I'm reading Fear Itself. And you're reading a big DC conflict that obviously is coming out almost every, 2 weeks or so, and the Fear Itself was coming out 1 week. Blackest Night was coming out. I was reading some other graphic novels, and it just takes your fucking mind out of shit. And so when I had some money, I was a big Green Lantern fan before, and when you can't leave your house, but you realize that, oh shit, this is a big DC conflict, and it's coming out in hardcover, and you're reading it, and man, 4 or 5 hours, it's phenomenal. The amount of comedy I watched that time for those 6 weeks, because this was in my senior year. I'm 17, and holy shit. I mean, you find out exactly who you are real quick. And man, Blackest Night is my favorite series. I was just speaking to Jameson Stone, who is Santine Phoenix's husband, and they just released the game. And he's like, "Oh man, I'm reading Blackest Night." I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna love it." I legitimately Blackest Night saved my life without a doubt. Without a doubt, it's. I don't think I would have survived my surgery without Blackest Night and reading it.
It's amazing what comics can do for people, help get them through many situations, right? That's just a small example. There's so many things. I think some people take it for granted. It's like this book could really hit home.
I couldn't go up to my room for 6 weeks. I was laying in my family room. I was getting home tutored. I was out of my senior year for the first 10 weeks. Apparently, some people told me people were spreading rumors about me in my high school. I was on crutches for about 20 weeks following that shit. Trying to learn how to rewalk. I still have to learn how to rewalk correctly. It's far from over my problems, and that was almost 10 years ago. But you're in pain, and I did it a lot of drug-free. I think I got prescribed like 80 oxycodons. I think I took like 6 of them, which is, I did a lot of drug-free. I was in a lot of pain. But I know people who are addicted to drugs, can't cope without them while they're medically prescribed and they're following their medical prescriptions. I get it. And I wasn't educated by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not going to pretend here that I made a conscious education drug decision, but did it really drug free for the most part. And yeah, it's pretty. But comics are very powerful. I think it's something that people don't understand. So I'm not just a comic investor. I understand this culture. I'm a comic reader. I have a Comixology subscription. I'm going through Zenescope's library. 85% of Zenescope is on Comixology. So when I talk about Zenescope, I'm not just a collector and buyer and seller of that stuff. I also read it. And there's certain books I just love. I just love certain things of that company. And I'm also smart enough to understand that I have good relations. How many times do you get to interview a co-founder of a company, and when you sit with them, you're an equal at the table?
Not many.
And so, but it's very, very interesting. And I think that, I think comics are in the greatest position they've ever been in.
In the end of the day, it's all about passion, isn't it? Like, it's about what you love doing. Like, sometimes you don't give a shit about the outcome because you are so invested emotionally in what you do, in what you believe.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I agree. And look, I'm a big graphic novel fan. I love reading graphic novels more than comics. Comixology is arguably the greatest thing in the world. I think that's a big mistake about indie. I have gotten into fights with people on indie. I think for the longest time, and I think COVID opened up a lot of eyes about digital. A lot of people said, I don't prioritize digital. I'm like, what, are you guys retarded? And I'll say that openly. I got no problem calling people out. I'm like, digital is the greatest thing. Now, I'm all for physical copies of shit, but guess what? If it costs me $1 to send, if I'm printing the book and it's already digital, I'm going to send it to you anyway. I request now on my show, you got to send me a digital copy of your book. If you can't send me a digital fucking copy, I can't interview you.
You know something like
what are you going to talk about? Right?
You're a very young person. Like you are not even 30. You're 28 or something.
Yeah, I'm 28. It's not.
But, like
yeah.
It's
just take another sip, please. Just take another sip.
Yeah, take another sip. Yeah.
Roger is the old guy in the room, so we're getting some old man wisdom
because
here,
you don't come across as a millennium because you should be a millennium because you were born on those years.
I was born in 93.
Yeah, fuck this. There's a big gap. I'd say philosophically.
I've been through wars. See, this is the problem. I'll let you finish, but maybe I'm gonna answer part where you're going with this. I've been through fucked up shit at a very young age. I've also been through some fucked up shit with relationships and I've been a bastard of a boyfriend. Don't get me wrong. I am not perfect. I'm the first person to criticize myself. And I understand that. I had a good thing and I apparently made a good business decision, but a wrong relationship decision. I understand that. So I've been through fucked up shit.
Yeah, I assume that has matured you. Like that made you ready for the fights. It's like you're not like those kind of people that needs to be validated. Like you have some substance.
So I'll give you a
do.
better example. All these people have awards. I'm a finalist in this podcast saying, oh, my comic was awarded for an Eisner. I give no fucks about that shit. I want to be paid now. Okay, my sponsorship tour, this is about me getting paid and then getting my shit taken care of. So I don't give a fuck. I put it up. Say, no, I can give you 5% off of my sponsor. It cost me $1 more. I'm like, great. That's fine for you, man. I don't care. I don't give a flying fuck anymore because awards are great. Money is a fuck ton better. And I've been through fucked up shit. I've been through loss. I've been through fights. And you know what it is? I don't speak like a millennial, and I don't speak like a traditional Republican. I don't speak like a traditional right winger because guess what? I'm a fucking logical human being, and I know how to fucking think. And I think so many people are fucking soft as of lately, and I think so many people are unworldly, and that's where I'm at. I've been through shit.
Oh, we could go deep in that. We could go deep in that pain, man. I think
we
people
could,
sometimes
yeah.
right now. Oh my God, I think people are just really afraid to. I always say I'm politically homeless is my angle because I like things from
Try
both
to
sides.
cancel
I get
me.
it, you know.
Try to cancel.
Right? Yeah, there'll be.
That's what I said.
Oh, you don't subscribe to all the ideologies, so you're not really one of us. So I'm not. You can't say that because it's like, no, man. I grew up a poor kid. My parents had some assistance from the government, like. When my dad got sick and but it got us through that time and we got back up on our feet and we got through that. Like, so I can respect some of those types of programs, but I also like small government. And I think most people do. Most people want to be left the fuck alone and not have somebody come and tell them how to live their lives, right? They want their land, the people they care about, and they love to be taken care of. And that's it. At the end of the day, just leave me alone. Like most people can get behind that.
No, it's not that for me. What it is for me is that I tend to be libertarian. That was my last vacation.
I think I am too. I think I'm more that way too. Yeah.
I'll tell you about my last vacation.
I am.
My last vacation was the greatest thing I've ever done. So I got invited. I'm in Anime Boston doing this panel talking about sports animes. I'm part of their sports. I'm part of their talking about Osamu Tezuka. I'm a big old school golden age anime fan. I know so much about Astro Boy. It's like the greatest fucking thing on the planet. Okay, so I go deep. And now I get this email. And I'm sitting all by palm with my dad. We're in a hotel room. It's fantastic. We're in the quiet hotel room, which is nice too. On the other side of it, I've been treated very well at Anime Boston. It was my return after 8 years to that where I started and had a fantastic time, enjoyed it. And now I get this email from this thing called the Humane Institute Society or whatever it was. And they're like, hey, you want to come to this thing in Bryn Mawr? I'm like, okay, what is this? Turns out that it was an entire, essentially one college course where we got all these lectures from 4 professors in different universities who tend to be libertarian, and one person who worked for Cato, who was a lawyer, and worked for the Institute of Justice, and was part of a major Supreme Court case that defined gun laws in D.C. So now I'm getting lectured by 5 people. One of them taught at West Point. One of them taught at, Maryland, Towson. One of them taught up in Albany, and all sorts of shit. So now we're doing this stuff. My room was covered. My food was covered. All I had to do was get there. My parents drove me. And then every night we got drunk. All 40 of us as students from all different ages. Technically, some people were 19. They got drunk too. Because guess what? IDs don't fucking matter at libertarian events. And now that was my last vacation, having a great time because there was no test. And that was my last vacation. And I'm smart. And then what was crazy is that I go back to DC to do my first semester of master's through a special program. And I'm speaking to the Koch Institute, which is a big supporter of this. And they give me a free book. And my people and all my classmates were like, how'd you get this free book and these free earbuds and all this shit? I'm like, oh, well, I was speaking to this girl over here. And I'm like, yeah, I was just at the Institute of Technology and all this sorts of stuff. And it was just, people were just like completely shocked. That was my last vacation. So when I talk about things, I say I would rather have freedom and have a free-for-all. And I'm not saying we get rid of every safety net, but guess what? I want to be taxed less. I'm a businessman. I don't give a fuck if you're transgender. That doesn't affect me.
You can't tax your way to prosperity, right? So that's one
being
thing.
Gay
the second thing
bother me.
No, the second thing too is I don't think you can't fix failed government with more government either. That's another problem. Everybody's like, oh, we just need more government. No, dude, they're inherently flawed. Like they're inherently flawed.
So
broken.
One of my favorite people is this woman named Mariah Moreno. I love Mariah. Mariah is transgender. Mariah
Carey?
No, Mariah Moreno.
Oh, right. That's another one. Mariah Carey's too old for you.
Oh, my God. Hey, if Nick Cannon can tap that shit, I don't see why I can't either. So don't you fucking disrespect me, because I will log off this stream in a minute.
No, actually, I am a transgender. I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body.
My point. All things considering, I love Mariah. I don't know. Do you know who's in my profile pic?
No.
That's fucking Nia Jax. Nia Jax is a transgender woman who is an AEW world champion, and I love Nia. The story of that is I'm at a house show. This all black show. There's maybe like 10 white people in the audience. And we're having a great time. Like, yo, man, you're here. I'm here. We're watching wrestling. And all these black people are like, this is awesome. And most accepting group. And Nia shows up. And I'm like, this is great. And she's like, yeah, I'll take a picture with you. Let's do it. And that's on my profile pic. It's amazing. I call a bunch of my friends who are wrestling. Like, yo, dude, who's this? I text them pictures. Like, oh, that's Nia Jax. Holy fucking shit. Like, my point is that I don't give a shit if you're transgender. It doesn't bother me. I want my tax rate to be 0. That's what I want.
Well, it should be 0. So as a business, right, everyone's like, oh, we got to tax corporations more. Well, corporations don't pay the tax. They raise the price of their goods to everybody to offset that tax, and they pay their workers less money, right? And people don't understand that. It's like they're not really paying the tax. They're raising the cost of their goods and services and paying people less. That's how they offset that.
So my position is that I believe I should have the right to own a gun. Whether I want to own one or not, I want a gun. Fuck you if you want to take my gun away.
Guns are fun. Guns are fun, dude. It's fun to shoot. It's fun to shoot stuff.
So
I like shooting. I love shooting.
Yeah, it's fun as hell.
I've never fired a gun. I can't wait to fire.
Come on up here, buddy. Come
on.
That's all you hear. As the sun's going down up here in the country. I could get you guns like you wouldn't believe out here. You would love it. You need to come up here, man. We'll get you up here one of these days.
It's a fantastic feeling. My God. Oh my God.
So my point I'm trying to make here is that I believe in freedom of speech. I'm a big freedom of speech advocate. Okay, I interviewed a guy named Dennis Kitchen. The Comic Book Legal Defense Fund is built.
Yes, I know. I used to support that. Yeah.
Because of Dennis Kitchen. I don't think people understand. That is a fucking dream come true for me. Like,
it's a great agency. It's a great organization.
Amazing interview. I'm interviewing somebody who is fantastic, and I don't even know how the fuck I pulled it off. I have no idea how I've gotten here. I have no idea. And it's the most bizarre thing, because if you look at the trajectory of how I've done this, I'll give you about 10 people. I'm hoping I can give you 10 people. Debbie Derryberry, who plays Jimmy Neutron. Tiffany Grant, who plays Asuka Lange from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Then we go into Spike Spencer, who plays Shinji from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Then I go to Keith Silverstein, who plays Torsion Bolt from Overwatch. I'm a big Overwatch fan. And he plays a bunch of other characters in animes and plays a Naruto character. Then I did Colin Oshaganase, who plays Miles Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog and is going to be in that movie and in all the video games. So that's right there. Then I did Santine Phoenix, where I got to hang out, and she's a former porn star turned the queen of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. I don't want anybody to think of anything else. It's
a nice curriculum.
Slaying dragons. And then Jamison, her husband, came on, and I was hanging out with Santine in DC in the Museum of National History, and it's on my Instagram, a picture of me and her, and people. This is I don't know if anybody's seen the SNL with Pete Davidson when he's the teacher trial thing. So now what goes on is that I walk in, I'm working at Student Veterans of America, and what wound up happening is that I walk in the day after that, everybody's like, "Good job, Andrew, good job." Because they see the picture of me and Santine. I'm like, what, guys? What did I do? So then I've done Paul Levitz, who was the CEO / president of DC Comics. You want to talk about a fucking name? I mean, that's a fucking power name. Tom DeFalco, Chuck Dixon.
Tom DeFalco, fuck yeah, he's been away for forever. He's been on forever.
The best part of Tom DeFalco is "I'm sorry about your Jets" is how we opened up that interview.
You have an interview with him?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. I'll give him the link.
I'll send you the link.
Oh,
you're going to do an interview at some point. Yeah. My point is that I did a Chuck Dixon interview. I did a Tom DeFalco interview. I mean, I did a Paul Levitz. Paul Levitz, I did it in his house. It is the only in-person interview I've ever done. Then I did Denny fucking Neal.
Whoa.
You need to get John Levitz too.
And Denny, and the stupidest mistake with Denny is I should have went to his house to do it.
So, what is your approach when you come to those kind of big guys?
I just treat it like everything else. I'm just a fan, man, and I love it. And then one of my favorite interviews, and I'm pissed that I didn't do it the best way I could have done, was Howard Cruz. Howard Cruz is no longer with us, and Denny's no longer with us. Yeah. And rest in peace, both of them. Howard Cruz was one of my earliest interviews, and Paul Levitz recommended it to me. In his class, he's like, yo, you should read Stuck Rubber Baby. And then I said to Paul Levitz before, because he was a professor of mine in college. That's how I got Paul Levitz, because I approached him one day after class and said, hey, man, after this semester's over, can I interview you? He's like, yeah, we'll do it after the semester. And I did it in his house in New York City, seeing all the cool shit in DC Comics.
Wow. That's
the cool shit. I'm in Paul Levitz's house doing shit, and I don't even know how the fuck I got here. But let me explain.
You got the guts to do it.
When Paul Levitz passes, I will be at that funeral. No question about it. I don't say that as a morbid position. I say it because I need to be there. There's a position, and the person who is next on this panel as the generational Batman trifecta is Scott. Scott needs to come on my show, because the difference where we're going with this is, at this point, there was a panel at White Plains in the county center in White Plains. I used to live in Yorktown. It was Denny, Paul Levitz, and Scott. If I get Scott, I've completed a generational trend of Batman. Not many people can say that has been achieved on their podcast. Scott is the missing link.
Oh, John's still there. With us.
Yeah, he's still watching. He wants to know what your thoughts are on the NTFs in the comic book world.
Ooh, this is a tough one, man. I'm not a fan of NTFs. I'm not anti-crypto. I want to make this crystal clear. I just think that non-fundable tokens are so I'm slightly biased because they conflict with my business plan versus a physical item versus a non-physical item. And so from a business position, I am very much into a physical item because it's how I'm generating a lot of cash to produce into essentially stocks, which I don't know, is a stock a digital item at this point?
I mean, there's still paper shares out there, right? There's what bearer form, we call it, bearer certificate, right? They're still out there, but if you want to trade that, you have to send it into a brokerage house and have it digitized, which we could talk about the freedom of that too, right? I mean,
no, I don't want to get in. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, like I could send one to your house, right? Nobody knows, right? That kind of thing. So
the reason why I asked this question is that I don't know much about it. That's why I ask it. But I don't view a stock the same way I view crypto, if that makes sense. And I think that's a fair assumption.
Well, there's something tangible behind it, right? You have a company that has assets behind the stock, whereas the crypto is the full faith and credit of the people that are into it, right?
I'm asking. There's a method to my madness when I'm asking this question. I view Apple when I own Apple stock for all those who are interested. I don't think I'm breaking any law by disclosing that. It's the idea that when I view Ethereum different than Apple. I think that there's a big distinction. So when we talk about NFTs, I'm not saying, hey, if you want to invest in NFTs, I'm totally fine with you investing in NFTs. That doesn't bother me. It's just that I just don't get it. I think an NFT is just not. I think they're here to stay. Don't get me wrong, but I personally don't have any interest in investing in NFTs. I'd rather own the straight crypto on it versus an NFT, because. But and also the idea is that I own a lot of comics, which are straight equity plays, and I view NFTs as equity plays. I don't view them as dividend plays. And well, when I'm building a balanced portfolio, which is what I'm trying to do in my life, and if we look at my entire assets, and I don't want to go through every single asset class, particularly here, I have enough equity versus dividend versus assets versus interest producing things that I'm just avoiding NFTs. But hey, if you want an NFT, man, and that's where you think you're going, I wish you all the best, but it's not for me in what I'm trying to achieve.
I still think there's an audience that can't partake in that market too, right? There's seniors that don't have computers. They have a difficult time like logging into their accounts, like things like that. So that's something I always think about with crypto too, right? Is that, I mean, it's going to take a generation, maybe two, to get people that will fully embrace that. Because I think a lot of people, like I said, they don't have a computer, they don't have a smartphone, they still write paper checks and deal in cash. They don't even have a credit card. My dad was that way. He was born in 1930. He never had a credit card. Like he's not going to go online and do a crypto thing or do.
I'll be 100% honest. It took me a long time to jump on the crypto train. I get it. I'm not here to pretend. I mean, it took me a long time to jump on the crypto train. And look, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to build a crypto dividend position. And I found something that produces me a 4% interest rate every day. It's fucking nice. I'm not going to pretend. I
like the blockchain, right? So you could have comics on the blockchain, right? I was thinking about this with like legitimacy with obviously it's easier to counterfeit a sports card than it is a comic book, but there's a lot of fake sports cards out there. And I said, hey, wait a minute, what if you were to put your 52 Jackie Robinson and put that on a blockchain? So now you can track the ownership of that card. It's graded, right? You send it out to PSA, whatever, but now it has a digital record of who owned that. Like I
wanted, well, what I want is I want Blackstone, which has a majority equity stake, to actually blockchain CGC.
Yes, that's exactly what they could do. For that point,
I want that.
Here's who owned it.
Now,
it's legitimate. Here's the
let me explain how great this would be. CGC has barcodes. This isn't hard. This is easy as fuck.
Right. I think the blockchain is more interesting than the coin. You can have Delta airline miles on the blockchain. I could say, hey Andrew, I don't fly. Take my rewards points here. Boom, send it over to you on the blockchain. Like I think the blockchain is actually more interesting than the actual crypto. And I think a lot of products can get on there because you can track ownership of it, especially in the collectibles.
Blockchain is a lot wider than the cryptocurrency, because blockchain allows you to do business.
I like
from anywhere. I
like the bridge
with no middle person.
I like the bridge across the pond or the lake, but not necessarily the cars that are on that bridge, right? So I think it's better to own the bridge and get all the business of the cars coming over it than actually own the car, right? Because that's one and done, right? But if you own the structure, which is my analogy is that's the blockchain, is the bridge. You can have whatever crypto or whatever is the car on there. I want to own the bridge, man. I think that's ultimately where the business is going to go. And you might see a lot of things traded on blockchain. So if you put stocks and securities on there, something like that, I mean, what is the point at that point of having a stock market that's open 5 days a week from 9 to 4? You wouldn't need that. You could trade that any time of the day or night whatsoever. Because it's
for me. So for me, Ethereum, I'm a big Ethereum fan. I mean, look, I made money on Bitcoin. Don't kid yourself. And my play is that I like Ethereum. I made a lot of money. I've been pumping a lot of money into Ethereum for the past 12 weeks, and now I'm backing off because it's on the rise again. I think I'm going to do very well on my Ethereum. But look, I'm very heavy into certain stocks. I love REITs. I also love good companies. So I've done very well in the stock market, and I'm not counting out the stock market. And look, I'm a big Texas Roadhouse fan. I've done very well in Texas Roadhouse. I just did very well in the L Brands Victoria's Secret split off. I'm killing it. You have to understand that I put money in at L Brands when they were at $9. I am legitly 700% over in Victoria's Secret as a company. That's not an accident because I understand bra and panties. It's a good fucking sector.
The less the material, the higher the cost, right? If you get a smaller set, right?
No. I understand where they're going. I've done very well in WWE. There's companies I get. I like dividend stocks. I'm very good at what I know, and I know what I'm doing in this sector. Now, I'm retarded as a human being. I get trends. I've done very well in Chico's. Don't get me wrong.
I don't think lingerie is going out of business, right? I don't think people can stop wearing lingerie and go back to 1920s knickers or something. I don't think that's happening.
Hey. The girl I was into before I was a bastard of a boyfriend, she was a fucking keeper, and she had some B cups. And man, what she was a fucking killer. But my point is that she could have gone braless every day. I would have been happy as a lark. Anyway.
There you go.
My point is that I understand that company. I understand. And I was actually advocating when they were going to sell via Victoria's Secret to Skidmore. I was against that because I knew exactly when they were spinning up, I was ecstatic. It was this is a bad idea. I'm like, this is the best fucking idea on the planet. And they're bringing back the bikinis at Victoria's Secret, and I am all for it. In fact, I think it should be adopted by the Olympics.
So I'm heading off to. I'm going to totally 180 the subject here because this is what I do. I'm going to a comic book show tomorrow, right? There's one up here in Concord, New Hampshire. So I'm going to go there in this. Let's say there's probably 30,000 books that are going to be in this hockey arena, right? And let's say my budget. I'm just picking a number to make it easy for you. Let's say I have $1,000 budget. I'm going into this room. Mm-hmm. What's my plan of attack, Andrew, from an investment standpoint?
First off, you got to take $100, and before you go to the show, you got to smoke a bunch of weed. No. All seriousness, you obviously have a weed dealer ahead of time who's going to give you a discount. It's only going to be $50. No.
Downtown Concord Brown, sir, coming up.
So,
right?
So what I would do if I had $1,000, because I go to a comic show. My last show was Awesome Con. I went at $1,000. Every dollar before, so I was doing a panel and I wasn't a dealer. So if you're a dealer or you're an artist, it's a little bit different. But I'm assuming you're a fan in this circumstance, right?
Well, a little bit of both, right? I mean, if there's a good deal, no one's going to pass up.
No. That's not what I mean. So, are you going and having a table, or are you just a fan?
No. I'm just a guy blowing in there.
No. That's where I'm going. Because I go as a fan. I go as a fan, right? So when I go, everything has an assignment. So every dollar has a mission, and this is a mistake. When you ask me about a mistake. I, before a con, say, hey, I got a battle plan, and I give myself a 15% margin for error if I see something cool, right? So I'll just drop something. So I'm a big Elias Chazus fan. I love the guy's work. He did a cover that made me love comics. He did something called Firefighter Sexy Samantha. It is one of my favorite covers. So I have this book. I got a CGC'd in the raw book. Then Zenoscope did a metal. And I have to explain to people, when they did a metal, I said to Ralph Tedesco, I said, this is my favorite cover of all time that Zenoscope has ever done. And then I had a commission done in the same fucking style that I paid $275. And my mom was looking at me So I knew this was going to be a problem. And I said to him, and Chazus was very concerned a little bit. And I'm cool as a cucumber. So, and I love telling this story because he was very, very, I'm like, dude, this is fucking perfect. Like, you do Van Helsing, Firefighter, Sexy Samantha Cell. I don't give a fuck what you do with this because I trust you as an artist. I let artists do what they need to do. I don't tell an artist how to do their job, much like I would expect somebody who is not political to tell me how to write legislation. Okay, this is if Chazus, I said, hey, I just want a Firefighter, Sexy Samantha, and I'm going to get another 4 done by Chazus, grade it. And I want to say to Zenescope, this is the cover you got to book. I got to get Dave Franchini, Dave Wolf, and Ralph on that shit. It's coming, guys. And all I want out of that deal is I want a credit and I want comps. That's all I want. That's all I fucking want. Anything they comp out of that shit, because I know that book's going to sell and make them 20 G's minimum. I know it because I'm that good. The point I'm trying to make about this, when now getting to you, I like telling this story. I'm sorry. It's all about me today.
It's all right. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
I'm very egocentric, clearly. My entire show is about me. So now you got $1,000, right? What I would do is that I would put $200 into cool shit. So any book that looks cool, looks fun, is $200. Easy. Just if it's $10, it looks cool. Then what I would do is I would break that down. Now you have $800 left. I would then go say, hey, okay, what are the high-end books? If there's a Clayton Crane, if there's a Sun Kumanaki, if there's a Jamie Tyndall, certain artists that are getting really hot, I would make sure that I know the maybe top 10 hot artists that are going on right now and say, okay, these guys are sort of climbing and that these books are sort of hot. Then I would then go downward and look at, okay, these books are always good and they trade between a 5 to 10% delta on what they're priced at, and I would take a risk on a bunch of those. But then I wouldn't even put, $1,000. I would limit this to $500 because honestly, at this stage in the game, I mean that's if you got $1,000 budget, but I would drop it down. I would take $500 off the table. I would put it into something else. I'd put it into a CD for 3 months. I'd put it into, something like Algorand, which I'm in, which produces a 4%, rate of return every day. Because honestly, I don't think comics right now, going into where we're going, is the best trade-off. I think you could play with 500 and do all right. I think you could have a good time with $100. I think but I think I would break it down in percentages where I would go cool shit 10% to 20%. I think I would go, your standard, 30%, and then I think I would break it down into keys. And so if we do, let's say we do 20% cool shit, 30%, sort of standard. So that's 50% of things. I would do another 30% of a 5% hot artist delta swing, 30% if that makes sense. And then I think the other 20% would be just whatever catches your eye, which could be cool shit, could not be cool shit, or completion of collection. It might be that. So I'll give a quick story. I went to Awesome Con in 2019. I went in with $1,000 in cash. I go to cons in cash. I don't go to cons in anything but cash.
No credit cards, nothing.
No credit card. I mean, I have a credit card on my.
Do you negotiate on everything, or is there sometimes you just like, hey, you want $40 for that? Boom.
I don't negotiate with artists. Whatever they're asking, I'm like, yeah. I'm in. So this is Colleen Doran was $10. I'm not going to negotiate on that. I don't think I've negotiated on a while on a comic, because why would I negotiate with Elias Chazudis, who's drawing me an awesome picture? And I'm like, hey man, here's my book. I'm getting it graded. This is fucking cool, man. Do your shit. I'm not going to negotiate with you. I haven't negotiated at a con in years. I don't want to.
Yeah, I figure No, I don't really do it either. I figured those guys, they have their table fee, right? They have the gas to drive there, their time to haul that stuff out there. There's a premium to that, right? There's
What I would negotiate with Jazus is that I'm like, dude, how do we get Zenescope in on doing this cover? In which that my goal, like I might negotiate with him and say, hey man, if you do a commission for me, would you be on my show? But that's not even a negotiation. That's saying, dude, I want to promote you. Like I want Chazus on my show. I want to interview with the guy. And that's reasonable. If I say, dude, I want to put you in the fucking limelight, man. I want you on my show. I want to slay dragons with you. And man, you do your shit. So I'll tell this all comic story. So Ryan Brown and Charles Soule were on this tour called the Curse Words tour. Now, this story gets funny. My friend's not gonna like it, but he already doesn't like me. So he got fucked up high on weed and had a medical bad reaction to it. Now he has some
allegedly. We always gotta say allegedly, Andrew. Allegedly.
Yeah. My legal defense. Luckily, my father's an attorney.
He may or may not have allegedly.
Yeah, supposedly.
Now, let me explain. So now I'm sitting. He's fucked up, and his girlfriend's with him, and me and a bunch of other people at a barbecue are supposed to get fucked up. This is the guy, by the way, who negotiated. We were supposed to go to a bar, and because he brought all of us, was going to get the drink for free. Some friend, right? So anyway, now I have $50 in my pocket. There's this beautiful thing, and I said to my dad's in Africa going on a safari shoot, photography. I don't want to say he's shooting people because he's taking pictures of all these animals in Africa.
Allegedly.
No.
Yeah, allegedly.
No. It's not allegedly because there's great photos in my basement.
I'm just messing around.
I want to make sure. My dad has really expensive photography equipment. He enjoys it. He's an attorney. He spent a lot of fucking money to go to Kenya. So now my mom basically is like, okay, cool. This is going on. I go to my friend, says he's fucked up. And I'm like, this is a disaster. But now I'm like, oh shit, we didn't go to the bar. So I have a lot of money now. This is fantastic. And now I can afford to actually buy a $40 comic hardcover book. So now I show up and Ryan Brown and Charles Soule are sketching in the book. It's a huge line. I get there. They're offering us donuts. Oh yeah, comics is great. Can't shout out enough about them. If you're in New York, Harrison, please go to them. They're not paying me. I love that shop. It's been very generous to me. So anyway, I say to Ryan Brown, this is going to make sense in a second here. I say, draw whatever the fuck you want to draw. Everybody's asking him to do Iron Man because they're sketching for free in a soft cover book for $10 or a hardcover book. And I'm like, draw whatever you want to draw. He draws this big double spread page because nobody at that point was asking him to draw what he wanted to draw. So when I deal with artists and paying them, I say, what do you want to draw? I have this idea. I threw out the idea to Chazus, Elias Chazus. I said, dude, I love Firefighter Sexy Samantha. If you use something closely like that, I'm cool with it. I'm paying him $275, no problem. And that was how it went. And he drew a great piece. For me, it got CGC'd. It came out as a 9.8. Meanwhile, I have the person who's taking in my order is a woman. I said, and she calls up another woman. She's like, yeah. I'm like, hey, you guys want to take a picture of it? I took a picture of it. It was great. Turns out Zenescope, because he does a lot of covers for Zenescope. I go to their booth. They're like, oh, yeah, you see this cover, man? And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's mine. That's my first interaction with Zenescope professionally. It's like, yo, you see this cover? I'm like, yeah, I know. It's mine. That right now has about 7,000 likes on Instagram. In the first 2 days of that things, so between the time he did the cover and it had like 3,500, and they're like, "Oh man, you see this cover?" I'm like, "I know, it's mine," and that's my first reaction and my first professional interaction with Zenescope at a convention.
Yeah.
Would you say then it's part of your strategy? It's equally as important to make an investment in an artist as it is an actual.
No. That's a personal book. I don't give a fuck what that's worth.
No. I'm just saying if from an investment standpoint, would you recommend that somebody hits up an artist like that? Is that part of the strategy too? Like if you're doing this as an investment and you go into a show and there's artists there, like budget that in. Like should that be part of their budget?
If you're gonna do a commission, understand that look up their websites, because what I do when I go to a convention is that I have a lot of money. So if I know I'm doing a big convention, so if I was doing New York Comic Con, I would plan in December, because I talk about this. I haven't actually spoken about this in a while, but I'll give a great example. So if New York Comic Con is in October what is the 10th month? If you have January, February, wow, I'm so bad. 10 months. If you want $1,000, it's $100 you have to budget for every single fucking month, right? So a con is a lot more fun when you have money. A con is not. The more money you have at a convention, the more fun you can have in a lot of ways. Now, I understand there's business at conventions. Now, I also employ a bunch of strategies at cons. I'll give a great example. David Finch is a great example. I have a book by David Finch. He drew a little bat stinger on it. Did I ask him? No. I didn't ask him to draw the bat stinger. Here's what happened. I brought him a book called Cyberforce. Cyberforce is one of his earliest works, and I brought him a foil cover Cyberforce. Now, where this story gets fun is that I'm online. It's about maybe 10 people behind me. I bring him a Batman one. It's getting graded. His handler knows what the fuck he's doing. His handler's a guy. It's not a girl. So I've had girl handlers, boy handlers. It's all good. So now David Finch, this book I bought it for $1. It's a foil cover. I don't give a fuck if it's fucked up or not. He starts thumbing through it. Now, I didn't hand him the graded book yet. I knew once I handed him a Cyberforce book that he starts thumbing through it. The line is getting a little bit larger. He doesn't give a flying fuck about the line. This is how you get really good signatures and extra shit on your book. He then signs it. He knows the next book's getting graded. He draws a bat stinger on it. Now, that bat stinger, the book comes back. I thought it was going to be a 9.4. I was happy with the 9.4. Comes back as a 9.6. The bat stinger on it. So a stinger, for those who don't know, a stinger is a tattoo term where it means it's a little tiny tattoo. So the stinger adds probably anywhere from $20 to $40 to the book's value, because it counts as a sketch the same way as a full commission counts, according to CGC. So now we have a David Finch sketched book. Didn't ask him.
Awesome.
Didn't ask. Right. Just drew a little bat symbol. That's all I wanted. Goes back to Dan Jurgens. So I got to politely, I was at the Library of Congress at the same convention. Paul Levitz was speaking and Dan Jurgens was speaking about 80 years of Superman. And now I'm an idiot. I'm the first person to, I get to ask questions to Levitz. It's recorded in the Library of Congress. Say, my opening is that, my question was that, hey, how did you feel about that Nightfall was going on while Doomsday and Superman were going on within like 2 months of each other? And I asked, and I'm like, hey, Professor, how are you? That's how I greet Paul Levitz on a congressional stage in the Library of Congress at 80 years of Superman while he's giving a lecture. And then I say to Dan, because they had a signing afterwards, I said to Dan, hey, I'm going to be at Awesome Con tomorrow. Could you maybe you could do a little stinger on my book? I'm hoping, because Dan's an artist. Dan Jurgens is an artist. And he's like, yo, I'll see what I can do. And so now, turns out Dan's signing. CGC messes up. CGC is super apologetic. And the guy from CGC is like, hey, man, Dan doesn't usually sketch. I bring him a blank Batman Beyond cover because I grew up on Batman Beyond. And now Batman, he signs it nice and bold, right? And then Dan starts sketching. Now his handler's an older gentleman. His handler knows not to interfere with Dan. I pay $10. I'm getting it graded. I'm cool with it. It's a personal book, sort of. Starts sketching. I'm watching Dan sketch. It's like, yo, I'm sketching. Sketches are nice, sort of beat up Batman, but super cool, right? Then his handler's like, yo, Will Friedel's here, who plays Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond. He's like, you gonna get it done? And I'm like, yo, man, I'm not gonna push my luck. He's like, no, wait right here. I'm on crutches. His handler says, wait right here. His handler goes back a few minutes later. Says, come with me. I go backstage. And this is what makes you a comic fan, right? So now we go backstage. He talks to Will Friedel's handler. He says, yo, man, I need to pull a favor. Will Friedel comes behind me, and Will Friedel signs the book. CGC is witnessing all of this. And then Will Friedel puts, I am Batman, ... So now I got a Dan Jurgens book signed on a blank cover, sketched with Will Friedel's signature. Me and Will Friedel speaking for about 3 minutes. The line is fucking waiting. Right? Nobody knows what the fuck's going on, who I am. They see me behind stage. They're like, who's this guy? CGC is witnessing all this. And I go back to CGC. Meanwhile, CGC was 45 minutes late to that signing for me and reaching out to me. And that's what happened. And then I speak to the guy who's the head of CGC. I'm like, dude, this is the book you got to take a picture of. This is the matter. And then the guy's like, oh, I'm so sorry. No, dude, this is the greatest mistake ever. You got to understand what just happened. Take a book. This is the story to tell. And so now I have a CGC book. That's a personal book signed by Will Friedel, Dan Jurgens, sketched by Dan Jurgens, and the guy from CGC was like, yo, Dan doesn't usually sketch. This doesn't usually happen. And I'm like, he might sketch for me because I mentioned it at the Library of Congress in D.C., where I used to live. And so it says these are the stories that matter.
Right?
But awesome, I know. We're so far away from your $1,000. You got $1,000 tomorrow. Let's go back to this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's the small things, right? It's always that relationship building. I think a lot of people lose touch with that, right? It's like you can't just walk up to somebody and say, what can you do for me, right? It's about that relationship in the past, too, to get you to that point. I think a lot of people miss
all
that.
I wanted, he did a head sketch, essentially. A rudimentary head sketch. But the idea is that, hey, man, just throw a little stinger on it. Because what I like to do at cons now is I like to bring books to people. Like with Scott Lobdell, I brought him a Gen X book. Gen X book is like an old school book that's not worth jack shit. But it's one of his first things. And when he's signing, he's like, oh shit, this is great. And then I have Dave Finch thumbing through a book of Cyberforce. Cyberforce Foil Edition 25. He did like 2 pages in that book. It's sort of a mashup type book. And I think that's what people don't understand, that if you want to impress people, what you do is that you bring them cool shit. Every fucking time that I've ever wanted something graded, I bring them shit that they didn't even know, they haven't seen. Dave Finch, it was like, I didn't see this book in 20 years. Because who in their right mind is going to bring Dave Finch a Cyberforce punk? Cyberforce, not punk. Clearly, we know where my mind is. I've been playing a lot of that, Cyberpunk 2077, which is a great game if you know how to play it the right way.
Oh, I'm a video game junkie, man. I can't touch that stuff because I'll lose like 5 days of my week. Like I'm like a reformed alcoholic. I love
oh my god, you want to hear a bad position of mine? Oh, this is a great position. You know how good of a government employee I was?
Played a lot of video games on the clock.
Okay, so I got to work from home every Wednesday. Now, a colleague of mine got promoted, and I didn't think he deserved it. So instead of being angry, I was angry for about a week because I was making $48,000. He got to make $60,000. He got a Metro card. He got a bunch of fucking shit. He got a fucking phone. I was furious, right? So when I got to work from home, I would log into my work computer. I set my work computer to an hour before it had to log out, essentially. So now I would play Overwatch every fucking Wednesday. I would log in, look like I did 30 minutes of work, pretend to do 30 minutes of work. Every hour I would set up, I'd play 6 hours of Overwatch. I would take an hour and a half lunch break. And let's just say the South Korean kids and me had a really good time every fucking Wednesday. They're like, oh,
our tax dollars at work, and rightfully so, right?
Hey. Let me explain to you.
Allegedly.
My Overwatch levels went all the way up. Those South Korean kids did not need me. They did it. It was a 5-on-6 match with me, and I was the handicap for them. It was an even fight, and what I mean by an even fight is it was if one of them had a bathroom break for an hour, it was an even fight. 5-on-6 with South Korea. Whew, those guys are fantastic. My Overwatch levels were phenomenal. Man, I would love to play with those guys again. They're like, yo, dude, just sit the fuck out. I'm like, yo, guys, when can I join? They're like, you beat Tormal and just put the fucking turret on the fucking thing. Or BNR reset and just throw down your shield. It was great. My levels were phenomenal. I had a blast playing with the South Korean kids. Those guys are phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's another level over there. It's crazy.
They're great. And they were like, yo, we're in, man. And dude, we're playing with you all the time. We play legitly. They're like, yo, we'll team up with you again any fucking time because you're going to do nothing. You're going to do nothing. And we're going to do this by ourselves. And you make it easy. It was great. That's best awesome. Wednesdays were fantastic. The government basically paid for my Overwatch. I'm making $25 an hour, 8 hours. And I'll play an Overwatch 200 days. $200.
It's probably the most productive thing the government did during that time, so I don't blame you. So.
Oh my god, it was phenomenal! It was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
What else you want to ask me today?
Well, we hit the 3-hour mark. We hit the 3-hour mark, so we might. I
got another 30 minutes. I got another 30 minutes.
Yeah, it is fantastic because anytime we ask a guest, we always go further. You know, like we never stick to the plan. That's great.
I'm good for another hour. Like legitly, if you guys want to go for another hour,
I'm not. I gotta get up early. I gotta get up early to go to the show. So I'm an old man, so I gotta wrap it soon. So, but yeah, well, we can definitely have you back on, brother. It's okay. We can do that too. So it's cool.
Yeah, I don't mind. The kids are asleep, and
your kids go hard, Rogerio. My kids have been asleep for 5 hours. I mean, your kids are wild, man. So.
Fuck yeah.
I gotta write a bunch of interviews tomorrow anyway. I'm like fucked.
I'll be talking about people tomorrow.
And I want to remind you that you have to send me the link for that interview with the folk.
With whom? I have so many. It's so bad.
I'll test you, and then you send me because you have interviewed so many interesting people, and
so. How could you not, right?
Yeah, of course. Like we are lucky because every week we have nice guests, and I think it's different every time we have this kind of conversations.
Oh my god, you have no idea how complicated guest relations are. Oh, it's the worst. I hate fucking booking guests.
They throw a rider on there. Next thing you know, right? So. Let's get some final last words, Andrew. I can wrap this up, and then we'll be back on, man. Sure, let's do it.
NFTs suck. Let's start with there.
Here we go. No holding punches there. So no NFTs, right, from the investment standpoint. Right.
No, I'm not that brave. No.
I'm not a fan of them. Let's put it that way.
I feel like I'm too old. I feel like I'm an old guy with that stuff. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like
I do like my rum. So it's just rum is always good.
That's awesome.
I opened this bottle like literally 3 days ago, so clearly we have a problem.
So we should send not buy you a coffee. We should buy you a rum, right? That's how we should upgrade, right?
It's called buy me a beer. It's clearly no, seriously, buy me a coffee. I'm broke. No, I'm not even joking. So this is I'll sell myself right now. Every dollar you put in and either buy me a coffee, like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, check out the podcast, bother me for something else, like my Facebook page, all that matters and it goes a long way. I really appreciate shares as well. Anything you share from my group. Also, I'll say this, and this link wasn't included. I run a group called Indie Comic Connect. And really, if you join that group, you could post your comic once a day or anything related to really comics in general. And so if you join that group, it's completely free. And I'm just trying to grow that group. Obviously, Joel, for those who don't know, is a moderator, and he needs to really step up his work on that point, because we need to have a discussion about how we should really monitor that, because there's certain comments that might be slipping away here.
Sure.
And we need to have a very interesting conversation about that. I don't know what to do about it. It's not an issue as far as somebody fucking up, as much as there was one comment that bothered me in particular, but we're not going to deal with that on the air. But if you're an indie comic creator looking for a place to promote, that's obviously something that you should look into. Just to answer the questions, because it makes my life easier, and it's helpful. So that's
what kind of questions do you have there? Like are you divorced? Do you smoke weed? Or what?
I asked like 3 questions. I say, do you have an indie comic, and what is it? Do you have a podcast? What is it? And are you going to follow the rules? So if you have an indie comic, that's all you got to answer. And you don't have a podcast, that's cool. You're going to get approved. If you have a podcast but not an indie comic, you're going to get approved. If you're going to follow the rules, you're going to get approved. It's not that hard to join the group. It's very low entries. Whether you could join it if you have a podcast or an indie comic, or if you're going to produce an indie comic. And if you're going to follow the rules, that's all that's really required of you. It's beyond low entry. That's the thing, is that because what we're trying to do in the group is connect podcasters to indie comic creators, because that's a big problem where people have media issues. And I'm looking for a bunch of creators, guys. So every week I do 4 to 5 interviews. So I need creators. I need interviews, guys. I mean, I'm running and I spin my wheels constantly. I mean, my outreach every fucking week is insane. So if you're an indie comic creator looking for an interview, I'm for you, depending on your book. So please hit me up. I'm not that complicated.
we got two books coming.
It's Andrew Mecha Davis on Facebook. It's Popanimecomics.
Cool.
Message there. Hell, you can shoot me a message on Twitter at Popanimecomics. But again, the whole point is that I'm trying to get you guys media. It's not that hard, but you got to send me a preview copy. You got to be able to record on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because that's when I record, and I'm not compromising. Usually I record at 7, 8, or 9 at night. And that's when I record, and that's pretty much it. And so I don't know what else I can promote. Obviously, I got the Popanimecomics Lounge, which is a separate podcast. I got Conversations in Pop Culture, like my Facebook page. Buy me a fucking coffee already. I need the money. Again, when you put that money, it's not like I'm taking that as a paycheck. Even with my sponsorship, that money is not a paycheck. That money is legitly going back into what we're doing here and what I'm doing. I'm a sole operation. So that money is legitimately going to pay for StreamYard. It's going to pay for marketing. It's going to pay for equipment. I mean, I got to go to Walmart and buy some ring lights, guys. So when you back me, what you're really backing is you're backing the improvement. So I'm not taking a paycheck from this. If I raised $2,000, I'll tell you right now the battle plan. Legitimately, I would hire a social media expert / freelancer to boost your episodes. Hell, with Ozzy, I'll give a little insight. With Ozzy, he bought me a coffee, and I'm going to be very, very honest. I don't think he's going to mind too much, but we use that money.
Which coffee? The $5 or the $25 one?
He bought me a $15 coffee, and we used that.
I'm joking.
We use that in a marketing strategy. Again, a lot of this money goes back into episodes. And the reason why I bring this up and other things in mind is that it goes back into episodes and it goes back into promoting your shit. So when you actually give a fuck and you put it back, it goes into growing the brand, and it benefits you tremendously. So I recommend that if you like what you see, you like what you hear, you want to continue this, whether it's the comic book investing side, whether it's me personally, whether it's the show or anything of that nature, That's where we're at.
Andrew, we are very grateful to have you here. Like we can obviously see that you are the right deal. This is what you are. Like you're not playing a character, you're being yourself, and the passion that you have driving you.
Excuse me, I have to go to an axe throwing contest. Do you mind? I've been waiting to use that forever.
No, you will never win. You never win because I have more experience on drinking, like 30 years ahead of you. But coming back to that kind of,
I'm sure you would kick my ass if we were in a bar. You'd kick my ass beyond.
No, I don't know. No, I lived in Ireland for fucking 15 years. You know, and that's it. Like I'm not going to a drinking contest anymore because I'm an old man now.
I'm sure you would still kick my ass in that. I can admit defeat. I can admit defeat. I'm a big enough man to know when I am defeated.
Shots fired.
No, you're young.
We could have a night. We could have a contest.
You're young.
But hey, David Whalen has to teach me how to draw. That's going to be a fun episode.
There you go. That's awesome. Cool, man. Anyway, well, we appreciate your time tonight. I'm going to wrap this thing up. So we're going to do something different Wednesday night coming up. Mrs. Livid, my wife, is going to come on the show because John's.
Oh God, that's going to be
anniversary. Right?
I'm so sorry.
That's going to be a family thing.
Yeah, it's a little off topic, but it should be interesting. They talk about simple farm life, drinking raw milk, and doing powerlifting out in
well, why don't you guys talk about you guys? Because we talk about enough about me. Why don't you promote yourself?
We do that plenty. We do that plenty. We'll do it on your show. We'll come on your show.
We never ask for subscribers or likes. Like
no,
we don't give a fuck.
You like it, you know what to do, right? You know how to find us.
Like guys, seriously though, cool. Like if you're watching this or you're seeing it in replay or whatever, however it's cut up, like I legitimately need you to go like Indie Comic Connect. If you're an Indie Comic Connect person, you're an indie comic creator, and you're not part of that group, like and Joel's a moderator in that group, and he might be promoted eventually to an admin at some point. Obviously, I'm trying to grow that group. He wants to grow that group, and that's really what we're about. Is that I just want to give a platform to both podcasters and indie comic creators. And look, you can post once a day. I don't moderate that shit. He doesn't moderate that shit too much, and everything but an eBay sale and porn is allowed. So if you got a Patreon, you got an Indiegogo, you got a Kickstarter, like seriously, that's what we're trying to do here. Is that I just want to give a platform to people to promote their shit, and I think that's something that's lacking.
Content's king, man. Let it fly. I always say if you don't like the post, just act like Fred Durst and keep on scrolling, right?
Yeah,
right.
You find something.
Cool. I'm going to wrap this thing up, guys. So appreciate your time tonight, Andrew, and everybody watching. I hope you guys stay livid, and we'll see you on Wednesday night.